Hello everybody, welcome into our latest live video. Today, there I am. Today's Sunday, it's the 22nd of June, 2025. And today I've got to finish up a build I started a couple of weeks ago, which looks a little dusty in there. You know, I'll gripe about RGB and all the ridiculous, unnecessary time and money that goes into it. And this is an example, right? This is just one more. Again, if you're a home user, you've got one computer, how bad could it get? When you're building computers by the dozens, stuff like this just really gets old quick. So I've got a front fan here that works perfectly, but the RGB doesn't. So even though we have a fully functional fan that serves its original purpose perfectly without problem, there is no feasible, reasonable way to fix the RGB other than to replace the fan. It's a $40 fan, and it took 3 weeks for it to arrive. It's a pretty simple replacement. It's a replacement that we never would have had to have done had we not needed RGB, and it wouldn't cost as much if it wasn't RGB. So we're doing a repair we wouldn't normally do for a part we wouldn't normally have for to complete a job that it's doing just fine, except it doesn't look as good while it's doing it. This is the world we live in. And so the career that I got myself into 34 years ago, this wasn't even on the table as an option. And today, it's outside of the business world. It's pretty rare to run into consumers that don't have some form of RGB. And those who do typically always have multiple problems that are related to the RGB throughout the ownership of that computer. Not just one problem, multiple problems. Now, that's not the only problems they'll have, but it's one of the most frequent recurring problems is, you know, I can't change the colors, or they're not lighting up, or they won't go off at night, you know, I can't sleep, it's lighting up. All kinds of things I never imagined would be a future part of my career. And of course, my option is just do business only, right? Just stay out of the consumer space. People on YouTube want to see that, so that means, okay, so YouTube's not for business users, and people just want to spend money for silly things, and I don't have to volunteer to be a part of that. But I feel like if that's the price I've got to pay to continue education for those who want to learn in the residential or consumer side of things, you know, go with the flow. At the same time, though, I completely see the appeal of just staying away from the consumer side in YouTube and sticking to business where you actually get paid well, benefits, healthcare, and you know, if you have a problem with somebody, you take it to the human resources department. We don't get any of that here on YouTube. So thankfully, we have a great membership and we have wonderful supporters. And without you guys, well, I'm sure I would have thrown in the towel, because it's just a significant lack of gratitude and entitlement that comes from the general public. That's, you know, any content creator that's trying to do something helpful, that's trying to teach, that basically is doing it out of the kindness of their heart, will easily get squashed, just beaten the heck out of them by the public. But, you know, the great news, at least for me, is that so many of you are supporting and kind, that the ability then is to weed out, you know, the wheat from the chaff there, to figure out who are the viewers that support us, who are the viewers that cause us problems, and then separate them. So that's the best we can do with what YouTube offers us today, and we certainly, Mar and I and the others in the community appreciate all of you, so that we can continue to do this without, you know, making it business only. The business ideals and the business processes make sense for home users, but they may not be fun. But you know what else isn't fun? Fixing problems you didn't need to have, spending money that you don't have on a credit card to get something that doesn't do anything but light up, and then dealing with problems that you wouldn't have normally had and debt you wouldn't have normally had, simply because you're being swayed by, you know, monkeys watching monkeys, right? It's just, oh, that monkey's got something I wanted. And it doesn't accomplish anything. It's just keeping up with the Joneses is what they call it. And, you know, if you've got the money and you've got the time, that's great. But a lot of people that I see doing this can't afford to do it, and they get frustrated and they're tired of their computer because it just keeps having problems. And then I think, you know, in the side of the world I live on, which is in the business world, we don't really see computer problems, and we're not spending all that much money for an equivalent computer. So the business is spending less, having fewer problems, and why wouldn't a home user want that? So that's why I keep doing what I'm doing. I'm trying to drive that point home to get people to think for themselves and stop looking at what other people do by comparison and somehow gauging that as being better. To me, it's the other way around. It's somebody just has too much money and nothing else to do. And if you're one of those people, well, this isn't the right channel for you, because certainly no business says we've got too much money. Never seen it. Welcome in, everybody. Hope you're having a great Sunday. Let me say hello to everybody hanging out with us here in the chat room. Katrina H says hello. There's Mark Baggett, Dennis Hill, Eddie Casanova, and oh yeah, there's Mara in the chat room. I also see David Graham saying hello, and Andy W6AD joining us. Thomas MacT and Mark Gaines saying hello. Welcome in, guys. There's Buster joining us from Scotland saying hello, Carrie and Maralina, and everyone in the chat. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland, where the temperature in Edinburgh, 55 degrees Fahrenheit or 12.7 Celsius. Right there along, I say Peter's neighbor, Buster's neighbor. Joining us from Scotland, Ben Laird. He's actually not Buster's neighbor, but he's closer to Buster than we are. So from where I'm standing, those guys are neighbors. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for the super chat, Buster. Let's see. I want to make sure I'm getting everybody. Sean Skinner joins us and says hello. There's Richard DeFries saying hello. Ron Barnish and John Lewis. Frank Jimmy. And Barry Klein. Welcome in, guys. Good. I'm so happy you're joining me today for this exciting how-to video, how to change a fan. I was secretly hoping that I would have a mini PC that I ordered the other day from Amazon. And the reason I ordered it is it's another one made by that same company that I did before with the Linux on it. Only this mini PC looks like a stop sign. It's like an octagon. It's a weird shape. And it comes with Linux on it. And I thought, let's do that again, right? Because I got hung up finding the Microsoft HID driver on the previous one. And as I'm showcasing the learning process, boy, that gets under people's skin sometimes. Like, they think you can't show learning. You must already know it in order to teach it, but you can't teach people how to learn. That's a really weird rule that people seem to have in their heads, where they're devaluing or even insulting the content creator for teaching them how to learn. I don't have time for that. Just give me the answer. Don't show me how you got to the answer. Well, this is not a channel for them, you know. So it's more of the trolling I'm talking about, where the businesses don't do this. Businesses, obviously, if they're hiring you, they're paying you, they expect you to know what you're doing. Viewers watching the content for free, that's educational content. Usually you pay for educational content. Try going to college for free. Let me know how that works out for you. But a lot of people, the consumer side of things, just don't get that kind of content. They don't understand the point of learning when everything you need to know is right here. So you don't need any critical thinking skills. You don't need to be self-reliant, because you're really old if you think that you still need to know how to light a candle, or you still need to understand how to do things yourself, because this will tell you everything you need to know. So if you were smart, you wouldn't waste your time with an education. I don't think they really hear themselves. So the idea is that this will always be here. It'll never go away, and there will never be a circumstance in my life where I will have to learn to live without this. And for the fact that you think, they're talking about me, the fact that I think that this may go away, it may not be available, and your own critical skills for self-reliance and survival will come in play one day. Would you rather be right or would you rather be wrong? In other words, if I'm wrong and I have all of these survival skills and self-reliance skills for what turns out to be no reason at all, then what was the harm? But if I'm right and I'm without this for any reason, a dead battery, it doesn't mean I have to be without it for my whole life. What if I just left it at the store and forgot it? Now I don't know how to go home because I don't know how the maps work. I wasn't paying attention. I just followed the GPS. And so until they suffer, until they have that moment, they just don't get it. And they think you're dumb for trying to be smart when you don't need to be smart when you have a smartphone. That's the logic that I'm battling with a certain large part of the population, especially the younger ones. So they're welcome to live their lives however they want. I'm not telling them, you have to do it my way. But I'm just saying it'd be great to see you self-reliant. Not that you need to be, but if such a scenario arrives, even for 10 minutes, what are you gonna do? And it's very fulfilling also to do things with your own two hands. I can sit there and I can program a song on a keyboard, but that's not the same as a bunch of people playing physical analog instruments and playing drums and creating this music live on stage. Good old-fashioned analog. And nothing wrong with digital, but I also don't see there's anything wrong with analog either. There's room in the world for both, and I'd like to see a little more moderation to balance out both sides, that's all. So with that, that's my old man rant for today. Kids today. This was the motherboard we originally had inside of the computer with the spinning diodes, that Cougar case, that everything just got too big and too overcrowded in the case. So we got this case, it was on sale, and motherboard fits much better in there with the Cougar cooler we also moved over. And then we got it all hooked up, finally all fired up, ready to go, and then what do you know? RGB on one of the fans is bad. Now, I'm not going to go through the process of an RMA on a $40 fan. It's going to cost me 20 bucks plus my time to send it in. And, who knows how long I'd wait to get it back. This would be horrible if this were a customer build, by the way. If I told a customer they'd have to wait 6 weeks to get a replacement RGB fan, they're not going to be a fan of mine. They're not going to like that one bit. And yet, if they never had the RGB, then the fan would not need to be replaced. So this frustrates me for unnecessary warranty calls that affect nothing with the reliability, performance, or security of the PC. I just want pretty lights. Well, let's go buy some lights. This is a computer. This is a light. This is a television. This is a desk. No, I want my computer to be my desk, my television, my light, and my computer. Okay, yeah, let's put it all in one. What harm can come from that? Put all the eggs in one basket. That'll be a good idea. Think of how smart and efficient we're being. Anyway, Liv Greenia says hello. He says, I go to the woods to shop for most of my meat with my phone off. Well, yeah, you wouldn't want your phone to ring when you're in the middle of trying to, hide in the woods for an unsuspecting animal to walk along not noticing you. Last thing you want is a deer looking up going, you gonna get that? Andy says, learning is the main reason I am here. And of course, we don't know what the audience knows. We don't know your level of experience. We don't know your level of familiarity. So I do try to appeal to everyone. So in some cases, we get to a little bit more advanced topics. The other day, for example, trying to find the nano KVM on the network. So many viewers have no idea how networking works, but that didn't stop them from sending me emails telling me how not to do it. Like, it's disappointing to me, right, that people have no idea what they're talking about, but they want to tell me how to do it. And it's clear from their instructions, they don't understand networking, and they would have been better off not saying anything at all. On the other hand, I did get a couple of emails that actually did understand we're trying to scan the network, we're not trying to scan the computer. Anybody with basic networking knowledge knows how to scan the computer. I'm talking about scanning the network, looking for a device, discovering something on the network. And a few viewers just can't comprehend that. And they want to tell me the answer on how to scan the computer. And so right out of the gate, foundationally, they don't understand. And instead of asking if they're comprehending it correctly, like, is this what you're trying to do? Before offering their advice, it's like, why are you offering me advice when you don't even understand the problem? That's weird to me. But then again, like I said, a couple of viewers also wrote in and had some actual solutions that may work. At the same time, I reached out to Cypede and I asked them and the GitHub community if such a tool already existed, because I could write one. I don't want to if somebody else has already done it. And Cypede said they have a discovery tool on the Nano KVM Pro that's coming out, and that they could easily port that to PC. And I said, well, if you would do that, that would be great. So the Nano KVM Pro, which should be out next month, at some point next month, maybe about this time next month, I'm hoping between now and then they release that discovery tool for Windows instead of, for Linux or whatever they've written it for. They just port it over. At that point, then there's no reason for me to reinvent the wheel. I just need to sit back and wait. If such a tool already exists, I don't need to go back and create it. Creating the tool is really easy. I mean, these days you just go to Google, and you just say, how do I write a network discovery tool to look for, a manufacturer's assigned in a MAC address? The first 3 hexadecimals are the code for the manufacturer. So every network card from that manufacturer should start with those same 3 numbers. So how can we look for that? Or sometimes a manufacturer could even open up a port that's not normally open and say, how can we find this very quickly on our network using a discovery app? And so you could open Google and say, please write me code to discover Nano KVM on my network. And it'll probably come up with code in Linux and stuff. And you could say, okay, show me code that I could use in Windows. And it'll write the code. And you've got to understand code enough to proofread it. But yeah, I mean, it's that easy. So it presented me code in Python. And that looked really promising. But now to compile the Python to use it, I would have to do another Google search. And, these days, it's not like you have to go back through a book. What I would do back in the day is I would open a book, go to the index, look for the part of function I'm wanting to do in the program, and then it, turn to page 232. It would explain the function. Great. Now, how do I do this next function? I wouldn't read the book cover to cover. I just get to the parts I knew programming enough to know this is what I want the program to do next. This is the next thing. Each little thing I want it to do, and then how do we save it and run it, or compile it and run it? And ChatGPT does most of that right now, or any AI service. It's amazing. And even that, I don't want to do it. If they've already got it done, and all they have to do is port it to PC, that's super easy. And all I have to do is be patient. And that will solve the biggest issue I have with the Nano KVM Lite that doesn't have a screen. You know what else doesn't have a screen that's a KVM? Is the GLINet Comet has no screen. But they give you a discovery tool. So that's the only difference. And if you don't have that screen, finding it on the network, like if you have to scan every single IP address on your network, you can do that without any specialty tools, but it's going to be a few minutes. And I didn't realize when I was doing the ARP check, that's just a cache, meaning you must have made a connection with it prior for it to remember. So it doesn't go out and scan like I thought it did. So that, I don't know that I ever used the ARP command. And only recently, when I was doing the research, it worked for me, but I didn't realize it only worked for me because I had already connected with the Nano KVM prior. That's why it was in the cache. So I was like, okay, lesson learned, no big deal. Now I know. And there's a few other ways. And there's more than one way to get this job done, but it's frustrating when someone recommends you know, something completely irrelevant when they don't even really comprehend what the problem is. And that frustrates me, because I would rather those people kept silent, or that those people asked questions to say, am I understanding this correctly? Because clearly they weren't, but that wasn't stopping them from providing completely irrelevant solutions, just completely wrong. And yet at the same time, there were others, as I mentioned, that wrote in that had did understand the problem correctly and did provide some solutions, which I appreciate that. Remember, everybody's intention is to help, but some people don't realize that if they don't really understand how to help, they're just getting in the way, which isn't, you know, somebody's like, oh, I'm sorry I tried to help. Well, you weren't. so that's a little bit of a frustration, and that's what you see happening in the chat room. Why we've turned this to members only is the public in general will just shout out answers, hoping to guess and get lucky. It's a big game to them. I'm actually trying to get something done so I can move on to the next thing. I have other things to do. They got nothing else going on, so they can sit there and throw darts at the wall until they guess it right. That's just not how I run my business. Anyway, you can understand my frustration at that, because while they're making all that noise, somebody else is giving me an accurate answer, and I can't see or hear them because of all of the noise the guessers are making, and you know, spamming the chat room with things because they think they're so positive they know the answer because they Googled it, and they have no concept of what it is we're trying to do. Even though I've explained it, they've not understood it. So that is frustrating for me. But I do know everybody's intention, right? But just because that's your intention doesn't mean you're not just causing harm or getting in the way. So I ask people to be a bit self-aware of that. Make sure that you know what you're talking about, because otherwise, if all you're doing is Googling and pasting, I mean, I don't need your help. I can Google and paste by myself. That does get frustrating. Now, it's been a while since I've turned this machine on, as I can tell from the dust down here. Let me see if I get some of this dust out of here. So it's probably going to need some updates. What a shocker. That looks good. And let's see, let's give this power, and let's give it Ethernet. There we go. I need a keyboard and a mouse, which I have right over here. What else? HDMI cable. Oh, this is that motherboard that does not have a video output. A $600 motherboard that has no video output. So we'll get our USB-C to HDMI adapter right here. We'll plug that in here. Now I'll grab an HDMI cable, which should be, yep, right here. And finally, I just need the dongle, right? Yeah, the dongle. We'll plug that in. Any USB port will do. Turn the power supply on. And when I turn this on, I think you'll see the problem. Okay, so the bottom fan is clearly running. It's doing its job, but we've got no RGB out of it. Cougar cooler in there. You can see the flow indicator. Everything's looking good. Let's go over to the output of this. Let's make sure it's booting as it should be. Somewhere in here is my, there it is right there. Yeah, and this thing is fast. You know, this is a 14900K. It's a rocket ship of a computer. It's big, it's heavy. And, you know, as if we didn't spend enough money, I had to spend another 40 bucks on a fan I already have. I'm kind of pissed off about it. Let me go full screen over here. Okay. There's my mouse. Oh, and a new version of Samsung Magician is available. Well, let's go ahead and grab that. Obviously, I have a Samsung drive. What I put in here, maybe a 990 4 terabyte drive. I mean, this thing's a monster. I guess when manufacturers, when they think you're buying a $600 motherboard, there's no way it would ever occur to them that you would want to use onboard video, which is ridiculous that they're trying to save money. When you spent that much on a board, give me the damn video. Don't worry about whether or not I use it. That's how I feel about it. All right, do we want to overwrite previous install? Yes, I do. And I do think we're in 4K again. Let me go back here to display settings. Let's go to 1080. 1920 by 1080. Well, I'm doing this at the same time that I'm installing the Samsung Magician because there are some significant delays between some of the screens on the first setup part of that. But let's get back to this now. Do two things at the same time. All right, now I can read it. 1920 by 1080. Right on. Well, that's happening. We can now go to Windows Update and see what updates are missing. And while that's checking for updates, this should be about done. Yeah, hit finish. And it'll come up and tell us the status. Yeah, it is a 990 4 terabyte. Very good. 1.5 terabytes written. What's the warranty on this? Is like 1,200 terabytes or something. This thing's barely been used. Let's close that out. And yeah, you can see just in the, 60 days this has been off? Has it even been 60 days? Look at all the updates that have come out. Well, I tell people, you know, a computer is not an appliance. It's not like you can take a toaster from 1952, plug it into the wall and start toasting with it. These computers, especially Windows-based computers, the most common on the worldwide internet, are highly targeted by millions of people around the world. Not thousands, millions of people are targeting Windows computers. That's all they do every day, and they make good money at it. And there's not much legal recourse anybody in the United States can do from an attack happening outside of the United States. If they take what's yours, it's very, very likely you'll never see it again. Meaning they empty your bank account because this is too big of a hassle for you to do these updates. So you decided not to do it. It's just like deciding not to take the medicine that cures you, and so you die of the disease. You know, you pay the consequences because you didn't want to do have the inconvenience or discomfort. So you said, I'm not going to worry about it. And then it got worse, and then it becomes untreatable, and then that's it, it's gone. So I treat Windows updates in the same way I would treat medicine for a deadly disease. I wouldn't mess around with malaria, for example. It's too risky. Now, in business, that can mean the loss of the business. It can mean the loss of people's livelihoods, of all the employees. It certainly means customers have to go somewhere else, right? The customers are inconvenient. Nobody wins on this. So when companies don't have the budget to pay for security on their proper backups or data, it's weird to me, slightly amusing and absurd, that they claim they don't have the budget for it. This is kind of the way it goes. And then after the data breach happens, after the cat's out of the bag, all of a sudden they have all kinds of money they never had before to fix it. And usually no less than 10 times the cost, not to mention all of the lost revenue while the business is down and all the damages financially that causes, which then can add up to thousands of times more than what the original estimate was to just do the preventive maintenance to begin with on a scheduled appointment where that can be done where it doesn't affect the business after hours, on weekends, holidays, etc. And instead, a lot of businesses are like, no, don't have the money for it, not doing it. And they always not only have the money, but they've got 10 times more of that money that they didn't have prior when they're reacting to a data breach. All of a sudden, there's all kinds of money. And if you're in IT and you're dealing with a business like that, it's very stressful because now they expect you to stop everything you're doing because they have an emergency and you need to get over there right now and you need to fix it right now. They're bleeding money every minute they're down, every second they're down. Not an employee can work. Those employees are still getting paid. Those customers aren't being helped. Those customers might take their business somewhere else. They may never come back again. And all the pressure's on you and only you or the team you're working with to untangle the mess and get it all back up and running again. And if that company didn't have proper backups, ooh, it's just got a lot more expensive and it's going to take a lot more time. And even then, is the patient going to make it? Tick tock, tick tock. You know, you go to the hospital too late, you're still going to have a hospital bill even if you don't come out alive. Somebody's paying that bill. So, you know, they got to try, because if you do come out of it, you still have the bill. All right. Oh, let's see. Dustin Fuller says hello. Frank Jimmy says, ooh, 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 Mr. Kata. Okay, Epstein. Dennis says, Carrie's much more relaxed with members only. Luke Greenia says he's got to dust out the fans on some equipment. Yeah, it's always a good idea to do that. I'd say at least once a year anyway. David says the top fan is ugly. I like the bottom fan better. Well, you know, I did have that choice, right? When I was ordering the fan, instead of getting an RGB fan up here, no one needed to know this was an RGB fan, except it's got the white blades, which are usually indicative of an RGB. So if I were to get the non-RGB fan, this fan would be black and this one would be white. And the cost of two non-RGB fans is about the same cost of one RGB fan. So it was just cheaper. It made more sense to replace the one where the RGB is not working. It's this color coordination stuff, it never was a thing in the 90s. And even I'd say in the early 2000s, it sort of started, I want to say around 2009. Somewhere after the flip phone. Remember when the flip phone, the Motorola StarTAC, somewhere after that or somewhere in that region of time, that's when everything started to shift to become more aesthetically, more emphasis on the aesthetic with cable management and RGB lighting, and less people actually caring about performance, security, or reliability. You will very rarely see anybody talking about, on the internet today, very rarely find anybody talking about performance, security, and reliability. For the most part, the discussion is, I'm worried about my temps and how can I make it go faster? So people will talk about the performance. What they're not mentioning is, in doing that, you're dropping reliability, you're also dropping efficiency. So the amount of money it's going to use in electricity is going to be higher, just so you could get this little tiny bit back. On top of getting that little tiny bit back, you're also risking the stability of the system. But if your whole thing is you want to get more frames per second in Fortnite, you live in a different world than the business world. The business world made Fortnite. Business world is who you pay to play Fortnite. And that could be the ISP that you're using, the computer you're using, the video card, the storage, the operating system, the power supply, the company that delivers the electricity, the keyboard, the mouse, every bit of that. Even if Fortnite's a free game, there's still business transaction happening where you're not making any money, you're spending the money, and you're giving it to all these companies so that you can play a game. And that's fine. If you live in if you have the financial ability and the spare time to do that, who wouldn't? Of course I would. If I could afford that, if somebody else would be paying my bills, But you have to understand where all this equipment came from, where people going to work, people making the case, people making the fans, making the coolers, the engineers who design all of it, the chip manufacturers, the memory manufacturers, and yes, the RGB manufacturers. Then you've got all the cables that come out. Where do they go? Cables were manufactured by somebody going to work. Same with the monitor and everything these cables plug into. And they do enough of that they can pay their bills so they can go out and buy the things they need, like food and shelter, and maybe have some left over to play some video games. Think about it. Mara says she's added the parts list to this. Thank you, Mara. I wasn't sure last night if we were going to get that mini PC from Amazon on time today. It looks like it won't be here for a couple of hours, so we'll, this was my backup. Actually, this was initially what I knew I could do, but without committing to it, I just set up the video for today as sort of generic. And I thought I'll wait for the delivery update status tomorrow and see if it's possible that Amazon could bring that mini PC over, because I would rather, between this and the other thing, I would rather do the mini PC than change a stupid fan. But if the fan weren't functional, if it didn't work, if it was noisy, it wasn't spinning, then I'd want to do it. But I don't want to do this. I don't want to. It's just a stupid reason to replace a fan. On top of that, that's a very difficult fan to find, because I need one that's the same size and depth. If it's too thick, the cover won't go back on the case. And if it doesn't match the other one, then I'll have to get two fans that match, and hopefully they'll align with the mounting holes in the case. So the only choice I had was to buy the case manufacturer's fan that they actually used in this case, which is this fan right here, or at least it should be, the MF200R, which the fan says right on the back of it. And there are other MF200Rs. This is the ARGB MF200R. You got to watch these details. And, it was like $42 plus sales tax, and then it took like 3 weeks for me to get it. Then when it arrived, I set it aside, and it's been set aside probably for another 5 or 6 weeks before I've gotten back to it, because I said, I'm not in the mood to do this today. I've got other things to do. And today, I said, I'm not in the mood to do this today, but of all the other things I have to do, maybe the mini PC will come in. If not, then I'll do this. So that's how we got to the thumbnail last night. And so Mara, now that we're already into this and doing it, she's adjusting and accommodating the title and thumbnail to match what we ended up doing. These videos are genuinely live. So sometimes, subjects come up in chat, and I, provide an answer with a link, and then Mara will add that link in the video notes. Most videos don't do that. Most videos are already scripted. Everything they talk about is locked in, and then you get to see it afterwards. So I'm not saying one's better than another, but it's definitely not very common to find that here on YouTube. If I go back over to this machine, let's see how our updates are doing, because I just want the updates to finish. Yeah, they're waiting on us. So let's go ahead and restart. And then I can shut it down and change the fan. And again, it's a pretty easy thing to do, but without knowing people's experience, maybe some of you have never seen how a fan gets changed on a case like this, or specifically the size of a fan. And it's all real simple stuff. You pretty much know if I'm doing it, it's probably simple. If I can do it, you can do it. Michael Lavelle joins us, says hello. Welcome in, Michael. David Graham said Amazon's making me wait, not even out for delivery yet. Yeah. Barry Klein said the scripted videos have static notes because those creators don't have a Marlena. Yeah, well, they're also not live. I just heard all the fans quiet down and then come back up, so I'm guessing this computer just restarted. Let me go check on it, what it's doing. Oh yeah, we're booting. Probably the desktop's coming up here in just a second. No, it's still doing the updates. As I mentioned, this thing is a rocket ship. And my thought was I would use this here in the studio by setting up a desk and a couple of web cameras, and to use that as sort of an interview station where I can sit down. And when I bring on guests like Scott Merrill, the Ask Your Computer guy, or Doug Betts of Live Windows Training with Doug Betts, or many others that I'm looking forward to interviewing and inviting on the show, I'd like to have a separate place for that to occur. And for that, I need a separate computer. I don't think I need anything this powerful, but I mean, if I've got it and it's just sitting here, why wouldn't I? So I haven't decided yet what computer I will use for that station, because I don't even have the space cleared for the desk yet. I've got the desk, I've got the monitor, I've got the webcams, I've plenty of PCs, what I don't have is the space. So something else I don't want to do is the physical lifting and moving and assembly of shelves and things to get things organized here, but I will be glad to have done it. Put it to you that way. All right, so we're still booting up here, and hopefully this will, here we go. That's what I want to see. I was going to say that it fires up correctly. We're going to opt out of backup, skip for now. There we go. We'll just give that a second to finalize whatever those updates were. If you ever are wondering if the computer's still updating, just hit start, and if you go to shut down, it'll say restart and install updates, or shut down and install updates and shut down. If it doesn't say that, then yes, our updates have completed. So sometimes it'll say the updates are done, but when you come in here, if you see those options, the updates aren't done yet. Give it a couple minutes, check again, and then those options go away, and you have a regular start menu, shutdown menu. I'm going to look just one more time while we're in here and make sure everything's caught up, and then we'll shut it down. After that, the computer really is done. It just needs to be buttoned up. The cable management, of course, needs to be done, and it can be put into service or sold, depending on what we end up doing with it. David Graham says, did you get your helper yet? And a $2 super chat. No, I don't know if he has decided that it's not the work he wants to do. I'm waiting for him to reach out to me and tell me he's ready to work. I'm not going to chase after him. If he wants to work, I have work for him. If it's not the kind of work he wants, or it's not going to pay him enough money, well, I would assume he wouldn't call me back, right? So at this point right now, having not heard from him, either he's under the assumption I'm going to chase him down, which is not the right attitude. If you want to work for me, you got to show me you want to work. You got to call me and say, you got work for me. Come on over, let's do it. But if it's not the kind of work you want to do, well, you don't need to call me then. You don't need to tell me. So, unfortunately for me, I've not heard back. It's been a couple weeks. And again, I'm not going to chase him down. He wants to work. I remember growing up, let me just put it this way. I remember growing up, we had this dog. And I remember telling my mom that the dog did not like the dog food that she bought. He's not eating. And my mom's answer to that was, the dog will eat when he's hungry. And so I guess that's instilled in me that if somebody wants to work, I'm not going to have to reach out to them and twist their arm. They will reach out to me and say, hey, let's go. I'm eager to go. What do you got for me? Got anything? So that's where my attitude comes from. Blaming my mother. All right, so to get to these fans, take this off. There's little clips here on this. One here. There's one right there. There's another one down here somewhere. just something I feel for. Right there it is. Okay, so we'll just temporarily get that out of the way. And I should probably unplug this from power, even though it's just a fan. I can't see any harm by unplugging it if I don't need to. But I do see harm if I leave it plugged in and something shorts out that I wasn't expecting. And I think, you know, I should have unplugged it. Then I'll be replacing another fan with RGB if it doesn't work. So I'm just going to pull the power cord. All right. So you can see these fans are white. They're translucent, and that's because they're RGB. If they're not RGB, like if you notice the fan in the back is black, that's not an RGB fan. So when you buy a non-RGB fan, it'll likely be black. So if I said, okay, this one's not working, but this one is, so we'll have them both not work. When I get the non-RGB, I'll have a black fan and a white fan, which you'll be able to see through the mesh. It ruins the aesthetic of the case. Like, pick a color, you know. It looks hodgepodge. And I'm trying to be a professional. And this box is taped closed. So I've never opened this before. What a shocker. We're doing everything live. And I hope I've got the right fan. So much time has passed, it's probably too late for me to return it. I'm pretty confident I got the right fan. I looked for a cheaper price like eBay and Newegg and nothing. So just got it from Amazon. That looks pretty good. Look at the size of that guy. A lot of people don't believe me when I tell them I have fans on YouTube. That's bad, right? David Grant with a $2 super chat said, I'd do it for you for free, but you live so far away. No. I live really close to me. You live far away. All right, what do we got? Oh, this is interesting. A little cover that helps keep the connectors together for the ARGB header. That's pretty neat. Cool. Those are the screws for mounting to the case. Hold on. Which one didn't have RGB? Top one or the bottom one? It's the bottom one, right? The bottom one's not working. Let me check it. Let me just double check. Knowing me, I'll amputate the wrong leg. Let's go over here. Let's turn this on one more time. Yeah, top one's working, bottom one is not working. Very good. So I'm just going to cut the power before it starts booting so we don't have to worry about any software corruption. We can reuse the screws we already have, which probably match these screws in the bag right here, so we don't need those. What's interesting about this fan design, if you notice closely, the blades are attached. You notice that? These blades, there's a ring that attaches the end of the blades to the ring. That's unusual. Most fans, the blades are not attached. Only one side of the blade is attached. But here, there's a ring around the outside. And I think that's to enhance the RGB look. I don't think it's there for structural reasons. It's just so it can light up. There's more places for lights to go. Now these two cables, one's power and one is RGB. So let's see, there is, come on now, where are you? That's our ARGB that we're going to plug into. And this one, where's this guy going? Chia. So that is our power to the fan right there. And then this cable is going out this hole right here. So we'll set this one aside. And I think this was put in this way, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that makes the CORSAIR logo right side up. Feed those cables right back where they were before. I don't think I need this barcode sticker on here. Get rid of that. Stuff like that can really count. As if cable management wasn't just a slow, painful torture in and of itself, let's make it even more difficult by working around stickers. Ah, stickers and RGB, the sign of a pure power machine. All right, so we've got two mounting positions on the fan here. Which one do we use, top one or bottom one? Let's see which ones line up correctly. Oh, it's got to be the bottom one. Stuff like that, you really got to pay attention to when you're disassembling, or you have to guess. How did I just take that out? Oh, maybe it's both. Maybe it's the top one on the bottom row and the bottom one on the top row. See, that's the problem. I could get another 200mm fan, but if it doesn't have these dual mounting points, you know, we're using the inner holes instead of the outer ones. I don't know what that distance is. We could measure it, you know, to find another model of fan, perhaps from another manufacturer. I've also noticed this one says CoolerMaster and this one does not say CoolerMaster, so there's still not a 100% match. And I'm definitely not going to spend another $45 or whatever it was, $42, and wait 3 weeks just so I could have the sticker on the front. You got to be out of your mind. I'd rather just peel that sticker off or just ignore it, because maybe we won't even see it through the mesh. But if I can see it through the mesh and it's not consistent, it's not the same, I think just peeling the sticker off will be a smart thing to do. So I don't know why CoolerMaster would do that. I'm not sure why they would sell a fan that they use in their own case, but then when they sell a fan separately, they manufacture it without the sticker, or with the sticker versus without the sticker. And if it didn't matter, then why did they choose one way or the other for the case and one way or another? Like, if that didn't matter, why? That must matter to somebody. Somebody made a conscious decision to do that. Why? So if we come over here now and find our fan cables, so here's the power, well, see, that's the power we're plugging into. And this is the power to the fan right here. Now those lock in pretty good together. The one that can easily fall out is the ARGB cable. So with these, they usually, once you get it sit in there correctly, there it goes, clicks in place. The ARGB cable will not click into place. It just kind of gets held in with friction, and they're very easily separated the minute you put any tension on the cable. There's another fan header. So apparently we have a couple of fan headers here. What do I do with my ARGB? Oh, so we've got this one, and coming out of the back over here somewhere should be our ARGB cable. I try not to weave the cables together, so we'll bring that around. And so when you put these on, they just line up and they push on. And the problem is there's nothing that keeps them from being separated out, which again can be an ongoing problem for people that have RGB, because most of the time When these two pieces click together, well, they don't click. When these two pieces are connected, they're just connected with a pretty light friction. So I like this idea that this little plastic piece is included. I kind of feel like this should be the normal thing here, where you could put these two connectors in this little cover, and it should just clip in there. And now you can pull on these cables and they won't separate. That's a genius idea. I really like that. What happens is, so you say you sell a computer to a customer, and they need to work on it. They're gonna add a drive or replace a storage drive or put more RAM in, and while they're in there and they're moving cables out of their way, they unknowingly disconnect the RGB on one of the fans or some system lights, and then you've got a support call for warranty, or you're getting email support, you know, hey, I need help with blah, 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 and it's all user created and avoidable. So little thing like that prevents that from ever happening. So I'm a big fan of that piece right there, and for some reason it's kind of bulging out on one side, but you know what? I'm okay with it. Let's go back over here, turn power on, and let's see if we finally have a finished computer after all this time. Give that just a second. There it goes. Maybe. Can't seem to decide. I wonder. It looked like I had a couple of fan header choices here. Well, it's going. Just got to be patient with it. So really the only difference now is that sticker, which I think I'm probably just going to remove. It really bothers me that they're not the same. The idea that I paid this much money for something so stupid, and now I have to do that additional work because there's no consistency between what CORSAIR used here and what they sold separately retail. Frustrating. Again, I want it to look professional. I don't want it to look like I've hodgepodged it. Especially when you consider how much money went into this. You know, that CPU alone is $500. The cooler's probably another $200. Power supply is another $150. The case is another $150. The RAM, I don't remember. We've got some CORSAIR RAM in there. Let me jump back over to the desktop and take a look at our specs. I think it's 96 gigs of RAM. Yeah, 96 gigs. 4 terabyte storage, that was probably $440 or something. So we got a lot of money in this, and that's why I'm going to make a big deal about the sticker. It's not like we bought it for $100. It'd be like driving down the road and seeing a Rolls Royce with one fender painted differently or just bondoed. You'll likely never see that in your life. You might be driving down the road and you see some old car or whatever with a mismatched painted fender, or it's still the color of primer and bondo. You will likely never see a Bentley or a Rolls Royce drive down the road like that. And it has to do with how much money you're spending. So certain things become unacceptable once you reach a certain price point, even so much as a sticker. So if you wonder why I make a big deal about it, you've obviously never dealt with people who are spending big money and they expect it to be, you know, spot on. They don't expect it to be inconsistent or scratched. Any minor little detail that's off, when you're paying that kind of money, it's unacceptable. It's got to be as perfect as possible. So for me personally, it really does bother me. Like, I don't want to look down through the, if I put the cover back on, I don't know how visible that is, but I'm sure it's visible because you can see me through here, right? There's not much there it's covering. And if that's distracting from the build, from the aesthetics of the build, then it's defeating the whole point of why we put all that stuff on there, which is to make it look good. I mean, they both look pretty dark. And we do happen to have, just luckily, the CoolerMaster logo right on top. And from this angle with the camera, they both look black in the center. I might be able to get away with it just simply because that badge is right there. But if it was this fan that had gone out, not so much. I don't know. I think I'll probably end up taking the sticker off, to be honest. But it really doesn't look that bad now that I see it. I didn't realize that that badge was right there. Looks like this cover has to go on. Where's my there it goes. That corner has to go in first. Then we can make sure all the rest of this is seated. And finally, I have a working, look, the computer's been working the whole time, but it's proper now. Now I can do cable management. Then I can put the panels back on it, and then it can go back out. So the cable management work and putting the panels on, that's brain numbing type work. It doesn't require any special technical knowledge. You're just making it look pretty. There's also, I believe, a piece that we put on that goes on here, if I'm not mistaken, that needs to go back on, I think. And then that'll also do a lot to hide those cables through this big opening right here. I think there's a piece that we took out. I'd have to go back and look at the original video now. It's been such a long time because I've got all the pieces. In fact, I think that's it down there on the floor. And when we cover that up, that's going to hide a lot of the cables over here. And after cable management, it should be a really nice, clean looking build. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I like this build. It's a much better improvement than having all of this stuff in the Cougar case where it was all very crowded. Now we've got pretty much the same components, but it doesn't feel anywhere near as crowded as the Cougar case. On the other hand, the Cougar case did have like the RGB power cable, which we're not going to use, and it had a big graphics card in it, which we're not going to use, or at least I don't have any plans to use that. But even still, if we're just adding a graphics card, that won't look terrible either. It'll still be plenty roomy in there. And of course, the rear fan, as I mentioned, that is not RGB. And then the fans on top, I can place this box up here because the radiator here has vents that it can breathe out. So I'm not blocking the radiator like I am on other cases when I put stuff on top of the case. And so I really like that part of this design. It's glass on top and you can look down and see the fans. If I move this aside, I'll just set it precariously on the edge where it will never fall. And then I can tilt this down for you so you can see. And then that's our radiator that's running the fluid from the hoses coming off of the pump and keeping our CPU nice and cool. And as I mentioned, I can place the box on top or anything I want without blocking the air vents because we've got air vents on both sides across the sides here so it can breathe freely. All right. Big job today, I know. That was a messy one. And then what do you do with a fan that's RGB where the RGB doesn't work? I have already tested just the RGB on this. It's shot. Something, maybe a fuse somewhere, I don't know. I have no idea why that doesn't work. Don't care much because I don't have any other cases that will fit in. I'm not sure it's even worth putting on a shelf, to be honest. There's only been a couple times, maybe a half dozen times I've ever changed out a 200mm fan. And oftentimes they've got to match another one that's already in there, or it's got to be a certain level of thickness, or the cover won't go on depending on the case. So even saving it may not make any sense. The odds of needing that for any reason where the RGB won't matter and it'll fit on the case. And I work on a lot of machines. It's pretty rare. I just hate to throw away a fan that's working over some stupid lights. which takes us back around to why I'm not a fan of RGB and the fact that that costs more to have something else that can break. Right. That offers you nothing in return. Nothing. Can you address the colors on the big fans? Yeah, absolutely. The ARGB cable, the A stands for addressable. So it is addressable RGB. And so I can control the fan color. If you notice, those fans are all red and orange. And you'll also notice, well, no, I take it back. The pump is not on the same sequence. So when I install the software for the RGB control, I should be able to control the pump color, the RAM color, and the fan color, and these fans up here, all with the same software, using, as long as everything's plugged into the same addressable RGB. Or if we're using two separate ARGB headers on the board, you can break it into sections and say, well, everything plugged into section 1, I want it to blink this way, and everything plugged into section 2, I want it to blink this way, or, you know, have this color pattern. And or you can say, I want section 1 and section 2 to be linked together, so that that way they will still be in they will still synchronize, even though they're on two separate ARGB headers on the board, if your board offers that. Ideally, you just daisy chain everything together. You're on one ARGB thing and you just have one thing to synchronize, but that may not be what you want. You may want your front fans to do something different from your internal fans. So all of these options exist that have nothing to do with your performance, reliability, or security, but will cost you more, and then create all these kind of questions and anxieties about how do I do it? Where do I get the software? How do I get these colors? And honestly, that's not why I signed up to be a tech. I wanted to help people with real problems, not with psychological ones. So just because you have a personal color preference, I'm not an interior designer, you know, but somehow I've become one in doing this work, where before nobody cared what the interior looked like. They just cared that it worked. Nobody had a glass window to look through. And nobody ever said to me, I wish I could see the inside of it. To this day, no customer has ever said that. It's just weird. It's from, you know, the very fact that business hasn't changed. Business still doesn't want any of this. Business doesn't want liquid coolers. Business doesn't want RGB. Business doesn't want glass panels or plastic panels that you can see through. And when I say they don't want them, I mean they will pay more to not have it. They need the employees focused on work, not, you know, daydreaming into their cases. And they also don't want to pay the IT department for nonsense, you know, for repairing things that have nothing to do with providing a service or a product to a customer. And at the end of the day, one pays the bills for me and one doesn't, right? So on top of all the additional work, it doesn't really pay me extra for it. So I'd rather not do the work for free. So there's no incentive for me to want to like it. And that's just my side of the fence. You might be on the other side of the fence and have a different perspective of it, which is fine. Katrina said, that's so ridiculous to wait 3 weeks for parts just because of RGB. Well, that's the world we live in, and why I don't like working with RGB and the extra baloney. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, we're on the same page. I don't know if I installed the ARGB software on here yet. I think I did. Let me go back over to desktop here and see if it's on there. So this would be MSI software, which is what, MSI Lightning or something. Let's see if it's in our apps. No, maybe well, that would explain why it's not synchronizing. I haven't even put the software in. Let's do Soft Edge. This is an MSI Oh, I think it already cached the website. We've been here before for the drivers and downloads. It'll be under a download. It's not a driver, it's an application. Oh, utility. It'll be a utility. For the MSI Center, CPU Z, A64. Yeah, I guess we just need the main utility here, MSI Center, I guess. Look how big it is. All right, let's see what happens here. Open that up. I'm guessing the lighting is part of the center software, but could be wrong. Well, it seems to have installed, but where is it? Right there, I guess. I like how it installed, then we ran it, and then it says it still has to continue installing. Like, I thought that's what the first part was we did already. Surprise! That's okay. If you want control of your RGB, you'll have to add this additional resource onto your computer and update it and learn how to use it and have it take up storage space in RAM, CPU cycles. Totally worth it. And you're going to pay extra for your motherboard for this too. But at this point, this is a $600 motherboard. So, I mean, I expect it to be fully loaded with all the luxuries. Surprised it doesn't have a cigarette lighter too. MSI Center, start now. Oh, I thought we were done. All right, when's Manager MSI Center? Are we a gamer, a creator? Let's just skip this. And let's see, MSI, AI Engine, AI Land, noise cancellation, Mystic Light. That's what we want. So we get to install again. It's an app within an app for an RGB light that you don't need so that you can have them all synchronized to whatever color pattern your psychological profile prefers. Okay. I mean, that's, I guess, putting the personal in personal computer. Oh boy. Mystic Light. Let's open that up. If it'll open, 96 gigs of RAM on a 14900K, and it's taking this long for lighting controls. Seriously. Okay, so it sees the motherboard. Does it see our RAM? So we select all. Let's go to, what does flame do? Well, that's red and orange. Let's hit apply to red and orange and see. Okay, so let me go back to camera one here and let me show you what's happening. The front fans have gone red and orange, but the cooler and the RAM have not, because the cooler is made by a different company, the RAM is made by a different company, and they all don't necessarily talk to each other in the same language. Somebody's in China, somebody else is from China. These folks speak Mandarin, these folks speak Cantonese. Or you live in Switzerland, and depending on where in Switzerland you're from, you speak French, or you speak German, or you speak Italian? What's the third one? Anyway, you get my point, right? So even though these all go together, they don't speak the same language. Now, what we learned with the Cougar, what I learned the hard way, is it came with a remote control, which is very unusual, but the cooler is a bit older, so newer coolers don't come with remotes anymore. And the remote is there for you to manually control the RGB, because this would have been back in the day where this would have been the only RGB thing in the computer is the cooler, and then they give you a remote. And I struggled with this before because I had the wrong remote control. I had a white remote control. That's a very generic thing that comes with a lot of ARGB things from China. Not computer related. Could be an RGB light or something with RGB color. And I wrongly assumed it went with the Cougar cooler, but the Cougar remote says Cougar on it. So when I had the right cooler, what I learned is if I turn the RGB off, then it synchronizes to whatever the rest of the RGB is if it's plugged in. But by default, if the computer's been unplugged, when you plug it back in, the cooler loses that setting. It goes back to a default. So let me hit the power button, and you'll see now it's red and orange, and it's matching. And as long as look, I can turn the computer off and back on all day. That'll stay synchronized. But if I pull the power and this thing, drains its reserve power out of the capacitors, then I'll have to use the remote again. And then I'll probably need to download some CORSAIR software to get it to synchronize to the red and orange. Again, all of that is stuff I wouldn't need a remote, I wouldn't need the Mystic Light software, I wouldn't need any of this, and I wouldn't have needed to spend the money, and I wouldn't needed to have done the repair. But there it is. So you think about ceiling fans. When I was having some ceiling fans installed back at Studio A, the electrician wanted to put two switches on the wall, one for the light, one for the fan. I said, you don't need to do that anymore. We bought new fans. This is back in 2008. And the new fans have remote controls. There is no pull cord anymore. Those days are gone. Like, you could probably still find some for sale somewhere, but who wants that? He goes, well, I want to give you the ability to turn one on or the other on. And I'm like, it's not going to work with a remote control fan. It's just, there's only one on off. He goes, well, we'll keep it here just in case you go back. Well, I didn't argue with him. I said, that's fine. And of course, we've never gone back. In fact, we've never even had to replace those fans. They've been in now 17 years. So when we're putting fans up in Studio C, the fans have remotes, and the remotes have a holster, and I screw the holster to the wall and place the holster next to the master switch. And I want the master switch just to cut power, or to use the switch as an on-off switch, and the fan will remember to come back on the way it was turned off. So if it came on, if I set the ceiling fan on medium speed with no light, and I hit the power switch, it turns everything off, right? It cuts power. When I hit the wall switch again, power comes on, it goes right back to medium speed with no light, just the way I shut it off. Or I can leave the switch on all the time and only use the remote to turn on the light or the fan, depending on which button I press on the remote. I can also reverse the fan blades with the remote. With the old ceiling fan, you'd have to get up and hit a switch. You'd have to get up like on a ladder. So one of the ceiling fans that came with the house over at Studio A was in pretty good shape, but it was pull cords. And so when I basically put that from one room into another room, and when the electrician wired up the two switches, one switch turns the light on, one switch turns the fan on, to whatever position the pull cords were left in. So if the pull cord on the light was left on, then hitting that middle switch, or let's say there's a left and a right, hitting the one switch controls whether or not that light goes back to the way it was when you hit the switch, and the other pull cord goes back to the fan status, so exactly the same. But I promise you, when that day comes and that ceiling fan needs to be replaced, we're not going to put one in there that has pull cords. So for every room that has a fan, there's a switch that does nothing, and there's only one room where that switch actually does something, and those days are numbered. So in much the same way, this remote that controls this works in a similar way. But thankfully, there's no pull cords. All right, just amusing myself at this point. You think we're getting red? So pretty much that control for Cougar would control the RGB on the block and the RGB on the radiator, which we mounted up top. So they should be red and orange too. Yeah, everything's matching. So the only thing that we've got marching to the beat of its own drummer here is the RAM, which for one reason or another, the motherboard isn't identifying it. So that's where all these companies need to get on board with each other and say, here's the standard, here's what to look for. Right now, you can buy RAM that this board will see, or you can buy RAM, at least with regards to the RGB, that the motherboard's lighting software does not see. So then you'd have to download another piece of software from the device that's not syncing, and then run that in addition to the software you're running for the devices that are syncing, or to download a third-party utility like Signal RGB that does what the motherboard makers and manufacturers can't do, and tie them all together. You could also have an EVGA graphics card. It's, again, not auto-detected, so now you got to download EVGA's RGB software. And at some point, you could have 5 different RGB software that you have to manually configure to try and get them to look alike, even though they're not talking to each other. Or something like Signal RGB, which has a free version that's very limited, where you end up paying for it so you can have the lights and the colors you want all synchronized between all the different devices that won't talk to each other. I mean, somebody's writing that software and maintaining it. They deserve to get paid, but it's a shame it just doesn't come included as standard with your equipment when you buy it for the additional price you're already paying to have the lights to begin with. Andy said he's got too many remotes as it is. Yeah, well, there is that. Sean Skinner said his MSI gaming laptop has MSI Center and the lighting is in there. Yeah, and of course, when you have a laptop, all the RGB for that laptop manufacturer was installed by the laptop manufacturer. And it's part of what you would expect to be able to control when it's something you can't go to the store and buy individual RGB lights on your laptop. For that reason, anytime you buy a laptop from a manufacturer that has RGB on it, they will already have all of this worked out. But if you're building it yourself and you're choosing different components, good luck. Charlie Purdy was asking, what is a white box computer? That means something you've put together. You bought a certain motherboard, you bought a certain case. In many cases, let's say you've got Dell or HP and they're building computers, right? And there's a computer shop down the street and they're building and selling computers to compete with Dell. That computer shop down the street would be called a white box manufacturer. So they're not a system integrator. A system integrator is massive, right? They're going to make their own custom cases. They'll even have their own motherboards custom made. A white box integrator, those are folks who build from existing components made by other companies and assemble them and sell them with their company name. So, for example, my first job in the industry was a company called TriStar Computer Corporation in Chandler, Arizona, that would advertise in Computer Shopper and would build customized computers to meet the needs of folks primarily focused on AutoCAD. Not that you had to, but they were expensive, they were big, and they were custom built. And we would use standard cases and standard motherboards and offer these different configurations. And we eventually, the company got their own custom front plastic bezel that had TriStar embossed. By the way, I've been trying to find one of these old 3-foot tall TriStar computers with the curved front. It's all beige. It's got the TriStar logo embossed, not a sticker. It's embossed right into the plastic, because I must have built thousands of those. They've got to be out here, and especially in Phoenix. Even though TriStar shipped all over the world, they probably sold a lot more in Arizona, and I cannot find one, because there's that nostalgia part of me that's like, this is probably a machine I built back in 1991, 92, that, you know, stands this tall, it's beige, it's got a physical on-off switch toggle, goes up and down. That's part of my history. And it's big, it's ugly, and that's how it was. And that would be considered a white box manufacturer. TriStar Computer Corporation was a white box manufacturer. Dell and HP or Lenovo, those are system integrators. And then you and I, if we're just building, it's just a custom PC, you know, it's just a custom build. David Graham says, I used to build white box computers 10 at a time. Yeah. Well, that's how I made my living when I got started. And a $2 super chat. Thank you, David. So how do we resolve the RGB RAM not coordinating with the motherboard? Well, let's look, because I don't know other than let's go over here to this machine. And normally where I would look for this would be somewhere in the RGB software. It would detect right up here like motherboard. It doesn't see the Cougar cooler. It doesn't see anything else. Nothing else is talking to it, which is frustrating for me. I don't know, under Mystic Light settings, it's not there. So what I would have to do is just open a browser, and we know our RAM is made by CORSAIR. So I would just type in CORSAIR RAM RGB software. It takes us to the IQ downloads. So I guess CORSAIR IQ. More downloads. With murals. I don't know what that means. Vengeance wireless driver. Graphics driver. Okay, so these are all their pre-builds. So I guess we want IQ for Windows. We'll download that. Skip and start download. So this was 500 megs. This is 1.1 gigs. We're adding all this to our drive storage, all this to our system resources, all so we can control the colors of things that don't do anything for performance or reliability or security. And it just eats up our resources on top of all the other things it's not even done yet taking from you. You're not done paying. All right, let's run the CORSAIR IQ installer. And that should come up here. Select language. Next. Okay, next. Please wait. Well setup configures IQ. Okay. Start IQ. Here it comes. I'm like, is it going to do anything? Update your software. I just literally downloaded it. Why wouldn't they just give me the latest version in the download? So good, I get to do it again. Isn't that wonderful? By the way, every piece of software we are putting on our system, we have to update that regularly, including your RGB software, because that is a vector for which hackers can get into your system if you don't keep it updated. So what's interesting is it does detect our motherboard, but does the motherboard detect the RAM now? Maybe as a driver or something? Welcome to this. Start your journey with IQ. Next. We're doing this whole install again. That's ridiculous. Why would they have us download an old version just to turn around and tell us to update it? They're spending twice as much in bandwidth. This is costing CORSAIR money. So this makes no sense. Not to mention, I don't think customers are too happy to go through the process and finally get it, download it, install it, anxious to start using it. Not just yet. Do it again. Just literally did all this. Do it again. Okay. And if you're dumb enough to spend the money for parts you don't need and install software you don't need to consume resources apparently you don't need, then clearly you got all day to do this multiple times. So do it again. We'll keep you entertained if you're looking for something to do. That's what my mother would tell me. All right, now we get to reboot for some reason. I don't know why. And continue doing all this unnecessary work for feelings. It's important to consider people's feelings when you're selling computers, because that's what it's all about. Apparently, I'm a pharmacist now. All right, we're going to wait for the system to reboot. Here we go. Building emotional support computers. Please do not feed. So now the question is, first of all, will the MSI Center see the RAM now that we've installed the IQ software? I don't know. Sometimes it's a driver that gets installed. If I switch back over here to camera 1, the RAM has gone to red. It looks orange in the video, but it's red here in person. And it's possible the RAM cannot do the sequence of LED colors that CORSAIR doesn't have the same lighting controller. So then when you're mismatching different manufacturers of LED, then the number of patterns that they share, think of it like a Venn diagram. A Venn diagram is something I need later. But the Venn diagram will say that your RAM can do these colors, your motherboard can do these colors, and there's a slight overlap of colors and patterns they'll both do. So if you want it all to synchronize, I'm wondering if that's why that went solid red, or if I can still control that. Samuel Kowalski with a $1.99 super chat says, Carrie, keep up the great work. Thank you, Samuel. All right, let's get back over to the desktop. Let's take a look at what our options are here. So let me go back over to the desktop full screen. There it is. And we'll come over to, let's see, one of these is CORSAIR. Okay, there's MSI. Let's just see if MSI now sees the RAM. Would you like to install Norton 360? 3 dots up here, turn off all notifications. Now look at here, now it sees the RAM. So we don't have to use the CORSAIR IQ software, but we have to have it installed. Now that it sees it, you see there's a little link here. We should be able to link it. How can we link? Select all. Oh, I think this button here links it. So what you're seeing is these are the overlapping patterns, and it appears that off, wave, steady, breathe, temperature, flashing, color cycle, react to music. What I'm wondering is, could we do over here on motherboard where it says flame, can we synchronize that over to the RAM? Is flame an option here? It is not an option. So what could we do? Is there a color shift where we can pick 2 colors to pick from? No, it's going to color shift all colors. Is there, I don't know what visor does. It seems if we could do spiral, let me hit apply. What is it going to do? And then can we pick the color? No, it's not letting us pick it under spiral. Let's try picking it under breathing. And let's see if we can take red and put it. Oh, come on. Darn it. But breathing is just fading in and out one color anyway. So what about, I would think color shift, but see then it's going to color shift all the colors. So maybe, what does visor do? Oh, visor's just flashing different colors. That's not what I want. Let's go back to breathing, hit apply. And then need to pick the color, which I think is just 25500 from just pure red. Oh, and it's not going to let me manually type it in. Really? Nope. Oh, I'm on the wrong keyboard. Now, if I come back over to camera 1, you can see the effect that's had. And I think that's about as close as I'm going to be able to get to, which again, it does show like a red and orange on camera, but in person that's just red. But the rest of the red and orange you're seeing on the cooler and the motherboard, that is actually correctly represented on the camera. Yeah, that color of that shade of red is not changing for me here in person. It looks like it's going red and then orange. But that appears to be a brightness iris situation with the camera. I wish it was doing that. It would match perfectly. But still, I mean, it's not bad. Not terrible. RGB is all sorted. Now just finally cable management and put the panels back on it. Finally, it can get to work and be used. Andy said they're putting RGB on some mini computers. Oh, we've shown quite a few of them. Yeah, it's not uncommon. David Graham said he removed all the RGB software from his computer because the software interfered with his games. Well, of course, it's going to take resources and RAM, and yeah, for sure. Gary Tatum says, I wonder if iCUE would do better. Oh, well, we can certainly take a look at it. Typically, whatever iCUE offers, the Mystic Light should offer, or whatever the motherboard software is, but there are exceptions to that. But let's just jump over there and take a quick look. Let's go to go full screen over here. And iCUE should be right here. CORSAIR yellow, rainbow, interstellar. I don't want blue, I'm just looking for, and then there's liquid. So there's really not much here. iCUE detected a new SDK, please confirm, okay. So I guess this is what it calls murals. Lighting effects. Cooling. Alerts, okay. None of that's useful for me. Dim setup. Yeah, and now it's showing a representation of the memory here. That's pretty neat. And this is why different color patterns will exist depending on the product, because it depends how many LEDs are actually underneath the strip. So this is showing it's 1x4 versus, let's say, 2x4, 2x2 with regards to the location of the setup. In other words, which modules are we controlling specifically? And also, how many LEDs do they have in them? So although that's not what this is here, this looks like it's just identifying, you know, where your RAM is and how you want it to specifically control each bank of RAM. So under lighting effects, we have watercolor spectrum, color pulse, color wave. I'm looking for something like fire. We have rain, the opposite of fire. Strobing, yeah, visor was one that was in the other one. Custom. So we would want gradient, but we'd want it to be red. Oh, and look at this, select the LED zone. Zone 1. Yeah, this is really getting complicated. I don't want to get into it that far. So with the murals, I guess that's their way of saying they've already done these color patterns for you. There's yellow and blue, which I guess are CORSAIR's colors. There's the rainbow of all the colors, interstellar, which is going to be, so this one that says liquid, abstract, and interstellar are interesting, but they're not showing sort of the red and orange I'm looking for. I'm seeing a lot of blues and purples. But if I select interstellar, then what do I have to do to take control of it? Is there an apply button somewhere? That's default profile. A new software profile. We're okay with the one profile. That's for people that like different colors depending on their moods. Now, like a mood ring, it's a mood computer. Interstellar. So I double click it. I don't see an apply button here. I mean, it's selecting it, shows it down here, but nothing's happening. It may be that the Mystic software is overriding. So if I shut the Mystic software down or tell Mystic not to control, I mean, somebody's got to drive the car, right? So let's turn off, let's just close the software. Maybe that'll do it. Come down here, right click on it and choose exit. Now will this let me change the RAM? Yeah. So if you look now, let's go to camera 1. CORSAIR likes that yellow and blue. And then let me get back over to the desktop. And then let's go back to home and try some of these colors out. So that's Interstellar. All right, that definitely doesn't look as good as the photo. How about Liquid? That's just cycling through colors that are blue and purple. All right, what about Abstract? Doing nothing. Of course, we know Rainbow. So we can add more murals. Watercolor, audio lighting, gradient, image capture. I don't even know what video capture does. What video do you want your mural to display? And then I guess you have to pick one of these. Interesting. Not even close. That's quite the imagination if you think that's what you're getting. Wow. Oh, wow. Let's see. Let's go back to that plus symbol again. Audio lighting, monitor. What's gradient going to do? I want to go red. Yes. Next. Now it's more pink. Huh. All right, one more. Waste my life away with this nonsense. Monitor screen. What is our watercolor? Let's do the watercolor spectrum. Pretty easy. All right, it's pretty lame. Pretty lame. Now, in theory, if I shut all this down and restart it, it should, the MSI Mystic lighting software should start and control that RAM again. So we'll see what happens here. And so what we have to wait for is for Windows to restart and then for the Mystic lighting software, right? Because it's going to load all that stuff when you start your computer, your security settings and Microsoft OneDrive, all those little things that load. So it does take a minute before the lighting software starts and then controls. So let's see what happens in real time here. Should be pretty obvious to you. There's the desktop. Things are starting to load in the bottom right side. And one of the last things that'll load will be the Mystic Light software. Let's keep an eye on the RAM. See if it changes colors on us. I want to see it go back to red like it was. Pulsing red. No, it seems like it's remembering the last state from whatever software controlled it last. Because we have two competing pieces of software trying to control that RAM, the Mystic Light from MSI and the iCUE. That's why it's best to just use one piece of software, even if it's Signal RGB, because it does look like they've loaded here. So I would go back to Mystic Light and put it, because personally, of those choices, I like the way I had it. So for the RAM, profile 1, breathing red, that's right, hit apply. That should change it. Which it apparently did not. So that tells me the CORSAIR IQ is taking control where it wasn't doing that before. So if I go back to IQ, see how it's got liquid? Just click on that once, and then back over to the Mystic Light and apply it again. Let's see if it's still trying to control. No, it is not allowing it. Mystic Light settings, third-party RGB. We will overwrite third-party. That's what we want it to do. So then the only other thing I can think of is either in the IQ software saying let go, let somebody else have a turn, which is sometimes up here, or potentially just exit the IQ software with that. See, the problem may be the default profile here. Let's quit the software altogether. That means the only thing that can control the RAM would be the Mystic Light. So it's remembering our settings, but it's not applying them. Try again. No, it's not doing it. Turn Mystic Light off and back on again. Trying to get it to reestablish communication. So these kind of problems, this is a live example of just how much time you can spend on something that ultimately has nothing to do with owning a computer and more to do with owning a lamp. A software-controlled lamp versus just having an on-off switch. So somewhere in here, there's a setting that I need to change, and it's likely in the IQ software. So what I'm curious about, it sees the DRAM now, right? So what I'm wondering is, what if I take the IQ software out? Will Mystic Light still see it, or is there something in the IQ software that stays behind, like a driver? So let's take the IQ software out. And we're going to delete all that. Yeah, uninstall. And let's reboot. This also means our boot up time won't take as long as if it doesn't have to install or start up the IQ software every time we reboot. Let's see what happens. When the desktop comes back up, I'll bring back the Mystic Light software and see if it still detects the RAM or not. And we'll have our answer. No, the RAM is gone now. So we have to have the IQ software. What a pain in the butt. Just so stupid. All right. Well, I will just put it back the way it was, which is probably the best I'm going to be able to get it, unless I'm willing to change the RAM out. It's 96 gigs of RAM. So I'm going to go spend $200 on some different RAM because I don't like the software that comes with the RGB. What does that got to do with RAM and the purpose of RAM? Nothing. Couldn't they have made the RGB a little clip-on, universal clip-on to any RAM at all? that comes with the motherboard, and then you'd never have to deal with this. And the motherboard manufacturer could decide any way they wanted to communicate with it proprietarily, and they didn't have to worry about being compatible with anybody else. If you wanted it, just clip it on your RAM, run the wires to the controller, and let the motherboard software control the controller the same as it controls everything else. Now, this is the way it is, right? Currently, it's just dumb. All I gotta say about it. All right, let's see if we have any other questions. I guess while I'm waiting, let me go back over to the desktop. Go back to our downloads. Put IQ back in there again. I'm probably putting the old version right back on again, so as soon as I install it, it can tell me to install the update. Because I don't know where it downloaded the update to, but it's not in my downloads folder. So I'm not going to go searching for it. It's just dumb that CORSAIR is forcing us to download an old version and immediately wanting us to update and do it all over again. The exact same process, the exact same file size, the exact same installation procedure twice instead of just doing it once. Not winning me over as a fan, especially knowing that some of the most expensive RAM, the Vengeance CORSAIR RAM, is some of the priciest. All right, but ask me how I really feel, huh? Mark Leibowitz says hello. Start IQ. All I wanted to do is put it back to the red we had flashing before. I'm going through all of this just to put it back. Ah, that's hilarious. So there it goes. Finally, we're back. Okay. Did it give us the latest version here? What do we do? Settings, maybe check for updates. Yeah, it went from version 4.3.3 to version 5.1. Update now. See, I don't know where it's downloading this. And apparently, you know, as far as controlling the RGB, I don't see any difference, but there may be security reasons for this update, which is why I would always encourage you to keep the latest update, whether or not you think you need it or not. They didn't just pay their developers to do nothing and then pay the website developer to then add this. Well, actually, I guess they didn't, but they certainly added it to their servers in the update side of things, and then pay for the bandwidth, all to give it to you at no cost. They paid for all of this. And it probably cost them more than you earn in a year to get this update written, put on the server, and then all the bandwidth cost of customers downloading it all over the world. So to dismiss it, like, oh, I don't need that, I wouldn't. What's it doing? Waiting on me. All right, go through that again. So again, the RAM's gone back to the rainbow colors as it stopped the IQ software. And when it starts it again, it should go back to flashing red, and then everything will be happy again. There we go. Wants to restart. Of course it does. Well, I'm glad to finally have it done, to be honest. I'm not looking forward to the cable management, but I never do. I am very happy when it's done. It's definitely worth doing. It's just not a part of my job I enjoy. It's very tedious and mind-numbing. Doesn't require any particular diagnostic skills or talent. So for me, it's just, you know, there's no special experience needed to make something look nice. It's just judgment. Does this look nice to you? Fine, you know, cable it up. Also, just a little bit of thought goes into, do I want to cable all these to, you know, tie all these cables together, which may lead to me having to cut through a bunch of cable ties in the future to replace a fan, or do I cable tie the fan separately from the rest and then maybe tie everything up together finally with one cable tie, so that when I cut the one cable tie, it breaks it into other bunches that are cable tied, and then I can just go to the bunch I need, such as for the power and RGB on the fans, cut one more cable tie and get in and get out quickly, then recable tie that, recable tie the bunch. That way I'm not wasting cable ties, and I'm also not having to free up 30 other cables just for 2. And then I have all the tangling to deal with all over again. So by keeping everything bunched and segmented apart, and then attach all the segments together as needed, or whatever looks best to you, there's just no talent there as far as I'm concerned. If you can see, and if you have 2 hands, that's all that's required to do that job. So it doesn't really appeal to me, since anybody can do it. Why do I have to do it? That's the way I see it. Did our colors go back? Yeah, and everything's happy again. Thank goodness it's all put back. That's the way I like it. I'll probably keep it that way. I don't like to get caught up in that, because that's easily an hour of time just playing around with colors and sequencing. I don't know. That's just not why I buy a computer. I don't buy it for that. There probably are video games you could download if you wanted to do that and just do it in a video game rather than actually doing it in real life. But to each their own. I want to try something here. I think nowadays the internet has gotten to a place where if you can think of it, somebody's already done it. So if I want to play Galaga, and you're like, oh, you could download MAME and then you can find the source ROMs. You could, but couldn't I just play that in a web browser? You think somebody's already done it? So I don't have to do any of the work? Somebody's already done the work? Let's see. Play Galaga. Oh, there's a bunch of them. Freegalaga.com. Okay. What does this do? Click on the game area and press spacebar to start. Click on the game area. Well, this is not the Galaga I wanted. Where's Classic? Pac-Man, Frogger, Kong. They don't call it Donkey Kong. Must be a licensing. Let's see. Click on the game area and press enter. Would you look at that? Does this have audio? That looks pretty good. You guys must be hearing sound, right? Let me check. Am I getting sound? All right, let me go back full screen. Retry. Ah! Got me. It's definitely not the same playing with a keyboard. I'll tell you that. It ain't right. Come on. Yeah, I saw that coming. I saw that coming. Yeah, I suck at that game. All right, what if I go back? I really wanted Galaga. Play classic Galaga, Nintendo and Atari. What about the real game? Retrogames.cz. That says NES. I don't want an NES game. I want the actual thing. Come on now, it's got to be out there. Galaga 1981. That sounds right. Play in your browser. Click to skip ad. Yeah, that looks like the real game initializing. That's what the arcade does when you turn it on. That's its post. Believe it or not, that tells you everything is configured correctly in the grid for configuring the screen. That is beautiful. All right, how do we play? How to play, game controls. Let's just figure it out. Spacebar, enter, push the start button. The number 1, yeah. Left and right. Yep, and spacebar to fire. No, where's my fire? Shift. Where is my fire button? Enter. Whoops, that is definitely not it. Go back. Game controls. Why is that? Press. Please let Galaga game load. Start a game, press one, use left or right keys. Move your ship. Control to fire. Oh, I see. Which control? This one? Well, now it's not working. Come on. Can I go full screen? Let's try one more time. Okay, now it's moving and it's firing. Very good. And this is what you do with 96 gigs of RAM and a... Oh, no, 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 no. Die. No! The screen is way too small. It's not fair. There should be a way to make the screen bigger, but then I guess they'd cover up the advertising that's paying for it. All right. Take me away. Gotta be careful not to shoot my own ship. Okay, that's once. And I gotta wait till he drops or I lose my ship that way too. And you know, there's a delay between when I hit the control button and when the bullet comes out. So I gotta figure that delay out. Got it. All right, now we're cooking with gas. Done. Oh, key repeat is not on. That sucks. No! Take that, last Starfighter. Now if I get taken away, I don't have anybody to rescue me. My last ship. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, with things changing as rapidly as they're changing, the way that we accomplish getting things done now is changing. And a lot of it is just you coming up with the idea and then seeing if somebody else already had the idea. So unless somebody brings it to your attention and says, hey, did you know this? You have to think about it. Say, I wonder if somebody's already thought of this. And the first thing you do, Google it. And probably in most cases, somebody has not only thought about it, but actually created it, whatever it is you're looking for. If you're looking for a solution on how to fix a particular issue with your car, your computer, you could specifically seek that out. So when I'm looking for, let's go back to finding the Nano KVM, right? And I want a discovery app. My first question is, did somebody already make one? And so what I do, and again, as AI gets better and better, the results are going to continue to get better and better, and more of what you think of will be found. Because if somebody didn't do it, AI already did it, or can do it in the moment you ask, and then it'll be there for everybody else. So if we say, how to create app or script to discover Nano KVM on network, and then Copilot comes up and it's thinking about it. Actually, there we go. So using Python with socket for port scanning, that's a valid way to find this. And then using Python with Scapy for ARP discovery. But I want it for Windows, which there is a way to run Python in Windows. I just don't know. Let's just type in here for Windows. See, even that, what I just did there was kind of old school. I could have just asked Copilot or ChatGPT or DeepSeek or whatever, Perplexity. I could have just had a conversation with it. So here's using Python with UDB broadcast. This script contains local network and ARP. We may not be able to find it through ARP though. Use PowerShell. That's what I want right there. If you prefer a native, that's what I'm looking for, a native Windows solution. You can use PowerShell to scan your network. And so what you would do is you'd take this code, copy the code, and then I could open, well, I can save this as in Notepad, I can save it as a PowerShell script, right? So I could open Notepad, paste this in. Was that the end of it down there? Yeah. And we'll save this as kvm discovery.ps. That's PowerShell. Put it in the downloads directory. And then I can go to the downloads directory and double click on kvm discovery.ps. I want that to open in PowerShell. I don't know why it didn't come up automatically. Well, let me try another way. Let's just open PowerShell. We'll run it as an administrator just in case I need to. And can I just paste the whole script in here and hit enter? Yep, that works too. See what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to be a developer. And the other thing is, when I went to Twitter and I reached out to SciP there and I said, hey, do you guys already have one? They said, yes, we do. That's coming out with the new Pro version that's not released yet. And we could easily port it to Windows. Well, then what am I doing, doing all this work when it's already been done and all I have to do is port it? So all I have to do is sit back and wait. Once I have that, once I've found my nano KVM, I don't need to find it ever again. I can set the DNS name on it and find it. But when it's installed new, I don't know what its name is, and I don't know what its IP address is unless it has a screen. So I need a discovery app to find it. Or I need to have the knowledge to log into the router and see what's connected, blah, blah, blah. Or download some kind of tool like Nmap or, Angry IP Scanner, stuff like that. But I don't want to download a third party. I want to be able to do it natively in Windows or a specific app that does that one job that you don't have to learn all the technical stuff. And that's how easy it is to find solutions today. I was thinking what I should do just for fun. And if you guys want to play with this idea just to see, ask me a question on how to do anything. And then what I will do is I will ask ChatGPT word for word your question, and I will respond to you with ChatGPT's answer word for word. And then we'll all realize you don't really need me anymore. So let's play. What do you got? Ask me, I don't know, do you have a technical question? Is there something around your house you're trying to fix? Have you ever wondered about something? I wonder. There's no limits to what you can ask AI. Barry Klein said this computer's going to look great on the shelf. Yeah, I agree. It was looking great on the shelf before I moved it to the bench. I need to put some RGB on my shelves. Come on, somebody's got to have a question here. I'm starting to think I could do regular public videos, let the public ask their questions, and just type their questions exactly word for word, type the response word for word right back at them, or copy and paste it. And all I am is a middleman, like the phone operator back in the day that used to connect lines together. This person over here wants to talk to that person over there. And I don't even have to use my brain, just copy and paste. And nobody has to know I'm doing it. They'll just think, wow, Kerry has all of this knowledge. You can ask him anything. David Graham wants to know when his Amazon package will arrive. I'll bet you if you have an Amazon tracking number, we could ask. I'll bet you. Give me a tracking number. Andy says it better be a strong shelf. These shelves I've got are pretty heavy duty. I can't remember how many pounds they hold. And they're on wheels, so I don't have to worry about damaging the floor. And if I want to move them around, or the wheels, everything's brand new, so smooth as silk. Come on, nobody wants to play? Nobody's got nothing for me? Well, while I'm waiting for somebody to come up with something, let me try. Let's go full screen projector. Close that. What is the airspeed velocity of a swallow, of an unladen swallow? Oh, it literally answers the question. I thought it might come back with something hilarious. Do you mean an African swallow or a European swallow? Maybe I got to go into, let me copy that. Let's go back to Copilot. Do I have Copilot down here? So you don't even have to open up your browser and go to Google anymore. Just if your computer has that logo there, just click on that. Do I want to dive into more Monty Python trivia? Yes, I do. What is the meaning of life? Is 42 the meaning of life? Who is Harry Holzman? A long time computer, long time. No nonsense advice. Yeah. Professionally repairing videos in the early 1990s, he built a strong following through his detailed real-time videos that demystify everything from BIOS settings to hardware troubleshooting. On his YouTube channel, Carrie shares live streams, product reviews. All of this is right, often with a touch of humor and a strong emphasis on practical knowledge. You know what? I should copy and paste this right to my profile. He's also collaborated on tools like Uncle Carrie's Windows 10 Optimizer, design. It's true. He's got a bit of a cult following in the PC building community, and his fans appreciate his transparency, his depth of experience, and an occasional dad joke. Hey, that's really good. It's a gold mine for PC enthusiasts, techies, and anyone curious. Over 400,000 subscribers, more than 1,300 videos of blah, 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 blah. Here's what you'll find. Yeah, many PC reviews, Uncle Carrie's tools, repairs, live tech talks. You can explore his official YouTube channel. Want me to recommend a specific start? Yes. What video should I start with? Great choice. One of Carrie's standout videos is his extreme computer build, Unleash the Power with AMD and the fastest internal SSD. It's nearly 3-hour live build where he walks through a semi-performance PC, AMD Ryzen 9900 and blazing fast Crucial T705. He covers everything from CPU installation to BIOS updates and performance testing, all in real time with his signature commentary and practical tips. You can watch it on his channel. If you're more into budget builds, his best bang for the buck in 2024 is another gem. It's a deep dive into building a cost-effective yet powerful system using an Intel i5-13500 with plenty of advice on choosing parts and optimizing performance, and that one's available here. Want a recommendation based on your own build goals? Or yes. Yes, I would like a recommendation. Do you want help picking parts? Yes. TD500. That was the sister case to the one we've got up on the bench. Wow, this is, would you want me to compare a few specific builds? Yes. Wow. Wow, this is really, really good. And this is the worst it'll ever be. What I'm saying is they keep improving AI every single minute of every day. It keeps getting smarter based on the answers and the way people interact with it, by teaching it what to do, what not to do, corrections. Once you correct it once, it never needs to be corrected again unless somebody's toying with it and trying to mess with it. But generally speaking, the masses override the consensus, will override just some few people trying to mess with it. So it identifies accurate information based on just how much information there is overall. What is the majority saying? So to really hack it, you'd have to create a bunch of different accounts, because it's intelligent to know if it's all coming from the same account. And even the writing style, if it's always written the same and you're just keep trying to manipulate the answers with the same writing, it can automatically dismiss this as a hacking attempt by simply identifying that it's written exactly the same way, or it's coming from the same place, or it's coming from the same accounts. So it's not so easy to poison this. It still can be done, but as people figure out ways to poison it, then the developers figure out ways to block that. So it's actually, by causing, having any interference, you're identifying where there's potential for harm to the developers, so they can close the loophole and immediately make the product better. So everything a hacker does that works only works for a short time, because once that's exposed, it helps the developers seal up any little cracks and holes they didn't know they had. It's actually a real benefit. Ask Copilot, what's the difference between Windows 11 Pro and Windows 11 Enterprise? Oh, we got some questions in here now. Let's start with the first one. Ask GPT, what's the difference between Windows 11 Pro and Windows 11 Enterprise? Okay, let's go over here. New subject. What is the difference between Windows 11 Pro and Windows 11? Got a typo here. Enterprise. Windows 11 Pro includes features like BitLocker, Group Policy Editor, and Windows Information Protection, ideal for small to medium-sized businesses. Windows 11 Enterprise builds on Pro with advanced tools like Microsoft Defender Application Tool, Credential Guard, and App Virtualization, offering more granular control and protection for large organizations. Pro supports Azure Active Directory and Windows Autopilot and mobile device management. Is that all it tells us? That's all it's given us. Mostly, I mean, the bottom line is the more something has the word enterprise, the more manual it is. So if you want to buy a nice luxury car, it's going to have a nice automatic transmission. If you buy a car that requires more regular routine maintenance, it could be a less expensive car with a manual transmission, and someone's got to shift it. Someone has to have some skill to run that car and maintain that car. And much the same way, when we go up the ladder of enterprise level equipment, what we're usually talking about is something that can have a single point of control for maintenance, such as an IT desk that can control 1,000 computers with updates and security. And it often means that that company or that IT department is responsible for security, not leaving that up to Microsoft to decide, because they could shut their whole business down. And they need to apply it to thousands of computers at the same time. And that would be the way I would define it personally. Let me go back over to the chat. What was the next question? Is there a BIOS update for a Minis Forum UM580? Let's ask. Is there a BIOS update for Minis Forum UM580? Yes, there is a BIOS update available for the Minis Forum UM580. You can find it on the official Minis Forum support page, which includes BIOS files, drivers, and other downloads. And if you'd like, I can walk you through the process. Okay. Oh, now it wants to know, well, what do you need help with? So how do I go back to the previous? Oh, it's still up here. Auto detect. UM580 downloads. This is graphics drivers, chipsets, wireless LAN, and Bluetooth drivers, utility Ethernet controller. What's interesting is this is a different support site. It's all in another language here. I do not see the BIOS update, but I also don't see where the options are. Normally, I would go to Minis Forum. So you can see there the AI was not accurate. UM580 BIOS download. Now this is taking us to a, well, that's the same site. Support Center. Drivers and downloads. Is that not working? That's not working. Minis Forum has multiple websites, so I'm trying to find the one that works. Maybe the store. And then we want the UM580 right there. These are the specifications. Where are the downloads? Is it under Support Center? Still not right. I'm just looking for that download page in English. UM Series download Minis Forum. UM Series download. Okay, that doesn't tell us which UM. Okay, there's a range here for the graphics drivers. I would do this. I would take out the word BIOS and I would say driver download, because that's more than likely going to get me there. So this whole minisforum.net front support here, officials. I don't know why this drivers and download section doesn't work. UM580. Sometimes it's on the product page. Nope. These are specs. I used to go, I'm trying to remember what if it was minisforum.com/new/support. But that may have been something under development, or was it support/new? Drivers and downloads. Will that work? Enter the product to search. UM580. There it is. Drivers and downloads. That's what I was looking for. So it's at minisforum.cn. Okay, so drivers and downloads. BIOS. Oh, it's not working. I think they're still working on this. Drivers and downloads. How about the driver package? Does that work? My guess is, see, it's downloading the package up there. My guess is that it doesn't have a BIOS and somebody has not coded the page. That's why it's not done yet. Likely, if there was a BIOS available, it would appear here, but since there isn't one, the page crashes on you, basically, that there's nowhere to take you. So the answer, I guess, is no. All right, that was a good one. Sometimes AI is better than other times, but it's always getting better. To install my, John Lewis wants to know, to install my sink drain, should I use plumber's putty or silicone? Let's try that one. To, let's say, new subject, just to not confuse it, we're not talking about that anymore. To install my sink drain, should I use plumber's putty or silicone? Plumber's putty is a traditional sink drain installation, especially with metal parts. With the pros of that are it's easy to work with, it's non-hardening, so it stays flexible, it's simple to remove or adjust. On the downside, it's not ideal for porous surfaces like granite or marble, as it can stain, and it's not suitable for pressurized joints. Silicone caulk is best for permanent watertight seals, especially on non-metal or composite sinks. It's waterproof, durable, and adheres well to a variety of surfaces, but it does harden over time, making future disassembly trickier, also messier to apply and clean up. If you're installing a metal drain into a stainless steel or porcelain sink, plumber's putty is usually the go-to. If you're working with stone, composite, or plastic sinks or want a permanent seal, silicone is the safer bet. See, I think it answered that one pretty good. John Lewis wants to know, where can I buy plumber's putty in Brazil? Great question. Let's ask. I mean, Brazil's a pretty big place. You want to be more specific? Where can I buy plumber's putty in Brazil? Apparently you guys have Lowe's. If you're shopping locally in Brazil, try checking with major hardware chains like Leroy Merlin or regional plumbing supply stores. You can also search on Brazilian e-commerce platforms like Mercado Livre or Amazon Brazil for local availability. If you want help finding a specific store near your city or a good alternative if plumber's putty isn't available, and I guess you'd say yes, and you would identify, you know, maybe you're in Sao Paulo. Apparently, Leroy Merlin's one of the largest home improvement chains in Brazil. Telenorte is another major hardware retailer. CNC Casa. I always forget how you pronounce that. E? Is it just E? I? Construction. Offers a wide range of plumbing materials, and then, of course, online sources as well. And, of course, Amazon Brazil. Mark Liebowitz said, if you're searching for something with Google is called Googling, then what should we call Copilot? Let's ask Copilot. If searching for something on Google is called Googling. What do you call searching with Copilot? How about co-scouting for when you're scouting the web with Copilot, or maybe co-piloting since we're navigating the vast skies of knowledge together? If you're feeling cheeky, you could say you're winging it with Copilot, because that's what's a Copilot without wings? I think he means what's a plane without wings. Of course, you could always make up your own term. Language evolves by creative rebellion. After all, want to help turning it into a trend? I've got slogans ready. All right, let's go down this rabbit hole. Co-scouting, wing query, pilot ping, co-piloting, info lift, like knowledge takeoff, smooth and soaring, winging it. I like winging it. The right seat search, I don't know about that. That's because the co-pilots ride shotgun. Why is it called shotgun? It's probably something about Wells Fargo and back to the way the world was when stagecoaches carried passengers and often valuable cargo across dangerous territory. To protect the coach from bandits or other threats, a guard would sit next to the driver armed with a shotgun. This person was known as the shotgun messenger, and their job was to fend off any would-be robbers. The phrase itself didn't become popular until the 20th century, especially after it was used in Western films and novels and blah, 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 blah. So next time someone yells shotgun, they're channeling a bit of frontier history. All right. Did Cary Grant ever say, Judy, I gotta learn how to type. Nope. Judy is famously misattributed to Cary Grant. It became popular through impersonations and most notably by Larry Storch, who mimicked Grant's voice and exaggerated the repetition for comic effect. What is Cary Grant's last name? Leach, Archibald Alec Leach, born in Bristol, England. All right, Archie. So you can spend hours having a conversation with nobody. When I did that, they said I was crazy. Now, all the kids are doing it. I'm just ahead of my time. Mark Lieberwood said Mara's answer to Googling is coping. You're coping?
That's right. When using Copilot, you're coping.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
What about compiling? Compiling. So really, it's up to your imagination, and you don't have to wait for anybody to help. You don't have to wait for, it's frustrating to me when recently Adam Carolla on his podcast was talking about they couldn't find a charger in their electric car, and then they couldn't remember where the car was to come pick the car up later. And the whole time he's got a cell phone on him. The whole time. Like, I have a picture of the car that I took to remember where I parked it, but I don't know where that is. Look at the details of the picture. Look at the information on your phone. It tells you where you took the picture. Well, we called an Uber. I don't know how the Uber guy found us. Well, clearly Uber was using the longitude and latitude of where you were contacting them from, and they have that information. You could have emailed them or contacted the driver and said, hey, where did you pick me up from? I can't find my... He had everything in his hand. In fact, I would argue he never even needed to leave the car overnight, but he doesn't know how to utilize what's already in his hand, but he's utilizing it for other things. And it never occurs to him If you don't know the answer, ask the phone. It's crazy that he had all the answers in the palm of his hand and not the sense enough to even make an attempt to try. There's no more I don't know if you have a moment of awareness that you can just simply get the answer to what you don't know right there in what you're holding in your hand. It's got the answer. You just have to go and get it. And we would do that with a Google search, but now with Copilot or DeepSeek or Perplexity or, gosh, I don't know, Grok, you can just sit there and have a normal conversation and have it answer you. You don't have to, write it in Googleese. What time Brazil now? How much Bitcoin? You don't have to do that anymore. So, trying to think, what would I do here? Is there going to be a new Battlestar Galactica TV series? It is not moving forward. Peacock said they were going to do that. Mr. Robot creator Sam Esmail said he was developing it, and it got canceled. All right. Is there a new Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy coming to TV? There was a reboot coming to TV, but it's been stuck in development ever since 2019. The pandemic caused delays. As of late 2023, there's still no official release date. The project was pitched as a modern update of Douglas Adams' comic sci-fi. Wow. I mean, anything that's on your mind. In my refrigerator, I have eggs, butter, milk, and salami. What can I make for dinner? Look at this. Are you kidding me? I see Gordon Ramsay cooks beef Wellington all the time. How do I make beef Wellington? I mean, if you can imagine it, it doesn't have to do anything with computers. Why is the check engine light on in my car? Anyway, it's pretty neat, and I'm showing you because I'm trying to spark something in your head. I'm trying to ignite something that gets you started on that path. Mark Gaines asked Copilot for Northern Irish slang words. Well, let's see what it'll do here. Full screen. What are some Northern Irish slang words? What about you? A friendly greeting. How are you? It's Baltic. It's freezing cold. Scundered. Embarrassed or fed up. Oh, I'm scundered all the time. What is the crake? Crayak? What's going on? Any news? Also describe fun. That was great. Crake? Wind your neck in. Calm down or stop complaining. Dead on. Well, we use that. Keep her lit. Keep going. Stay motivated. Egypt. A lovable idiot. Well, we certainly learned that from Yosemite Sam back in the 1960s and 70s. You idiot! More. I means yes. We means anything small. Ragin? Ragin. Really annoyed or... All right. Here's me what? An expression of disbelief. Bake. Wipe that smile off your bake. It's not an Irish accent. Streaming, that means I'm very drunk. Well, I'm streaming every night. Swall or swollen? Let's go out for drinks. We're going out for a bit of a swall. Oh, a swallow, I see. Sure you know yourself. Are you sure you know yourself? A vague, friendly way to agree or wrap up a thought. Yes. Big lad, love, terms of endearment. All right, big lad. Poke as an ice cream cone? Especially from a van, not to be confused with chips. Really? Northern Irish slang is full of warmth, wit, and a bit of mischief. Want to try crafting a wee conversation? Yes. Let's build a quick scene. Davy, what about ye, big lad? You're looking rough out on the swall last night, were ye? Colin, I'm absolutely bejanxed. Scundered myself trying to dance in Maggie's heels. Don't even ask. Davy, here's me, what? You're an Egypt, so ye are. Fancy a wee dander to clear ye bake? Colin, dead on, but it's Baltic out. I need a poke to warm me up. Wait, how does an ice cream warm him up? That's hilarious. Andy says, now you understand why I say bout ye to Marco. Every time I try Irish, it comes out as Scottish or British. That's funny. If I wanted to, I could say, what is a good, what are slogans Kerry Holzman uses? Cars don't win races without stickers. This tongue-in-cheek line appears on his merch store, is often used when talking about his Go Faster stickers. It's a playful jab at the placebo effect of cosmetic upgrades. Oh, that is so well stated. I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to help you. Is that something I would say? Of course it is. Well, not an official slogan, the sentiment captures his straightforward educational style. I like this guy. Let's build it right, not just fast. A recurring theme in his PC build videos emphasizing quality and reliability over shortcuts. This isn't a review, it's a reality check. No, I don't think I ever said it, but I think I might start. He often reminds viewers that his content is based on real-world experience, not sponsored hype. Nice. He also frequently uses humor and sarcasm to make his points, which has become part of his brand identity. You want to turn one of these custom desktop wallpaper? Yes. Okay. I don't know about any custom desktop wallpaper, but let's see what it... Oh, I see. Let's turn Kerry Holzman's signature style into a wallpaper. Okay. It doesn't seem to have done that much. Show me more. It isn't a review. It's a reality check. I don't know what all of this is. Slogan wallpapers. Okay. That's not what I wanted. Just say the word and pick your favorite slogan. Cars don't, yes, let's do cars don't win races without stickers. I gotta sign in. I can only generate images when you're signed in. Never mind. What are more slogans from Kerry Holzman? Gary Holzman isn't big on polished catchphrases, but his community knows him for a few recurring lines and tongue-in-cheek slogans that reflect his practical, no BS approach to tech. Here's some more gems fans might recognize. If it ain't broke, upgrade it anyway. A sarcastic jab at unnecessary upgrades. He often uses this to poke fun at tech hype. Don't panic, diagnose. I've never said that. You don't need RGB to be fast, but it helps. I don't think real techs don't need scripts. Okay, I void warranties professionally. More. Show me more. This is fantastic. Give me some ideas. Go faster stickers equals 15% more performance guaranteed. Guarantee is not guaranteed. I don't do benchmarks, I do real work. This guy's hilarious. If you're not learning, you're just watching. Oh, gosh, I'm funny. Whew. No RGB, no problem. Literally. I fix what YouTube breaks. Oh my God, that's hilarious. It's true though. Oh, that is so true. People come into the channel and they ask these questions about some application they ran from some other content creator that created some utility, and now they're having a problem. And so people are following along with advice. You know, you should change this part, change your thermal paste. Here's how you do it. Why did you do that? Now the system doesn't work and they're bringing it to me for repair. And I have to rewind it and go, well, why were you doing that to begin with? Well, it starts with, I saw a YouTube video where this guy said it would improve. And I go, well, before you say improve anything, what was wrong with it? Nothing. I was just trying to improve it. So it was good, and you thought you were going to make it better, and now it's broken. Yeah, okay. Wow, that is freaking hilarious. I love it. This isn't a build, it's a lesson. I don't sell hype, I build trust. I don't think I ever said that, but I like it. Give me some more. I really like this guy. I don't build for clicks, I build for keeps. Ooh, I like it. If it boots, it ships. I would never say that. No RGB, that's how you know it's fast. I've never said any of this, but I like it. I don't need a script, I've got experience. That's true. Tech support starts with common sense. That's true. I don't chase trends, I chase stability. I don't know that I ever said it, but that's true. Is this thing reading my mind? If you want hype, go watch a commercial. Oh, that's genius. Oh, I can't get enough of this. Are you kidding me? I'm going to start stealing from this. I mean, it says it's taking it from me, but I don't build PCs, I build confidence. No fluff, no fear, just facts. Like it. If you're not breaking things, you're not learning. Yes, I've said that. Benchmarks don't fix broken PCs. People do. I don't do drama, I do diagnostics. Every screw has a story. The only RGB I need is really good basics. I don't build hype machines, I build machines that work. If it's not broke, I'll show you how to fix it. No RGB, that's called stealth mode. I don't need sponsors, I've got standards. Oh. The only thermal paste I trust is experience. That doesn't make any sense. I don't chase frames, I chase uptime. This is true. If you want drama, watch a soap opera. If you want answers, watch this. Direct, dry, and useful. You know what? They should put that on my tombstone. Unless it's raining. All right, just one more, because I can't get enough of this. I don't build PCs, I build peace of mind. Well, that's true. If it's not tested, it's not finished. That's true. I don't need RGB, I've got ROI. Oh, that's, okay, I know for a fact I never said that. But I would much rather have return on investment than RGB. That is absolutely true. A cheeky nod to value over vanity. Oh, that's wonderful. The only thing I overclock is expectations. Oh, that's brilliant. I love that. I've never said it, but I wish I had. I don't follow trends, I follow voltages. Well, not so much. If you want pretty, go to Pinterest. If you want performance, stay here. Every build tells a story. Mine just don't crash at the end. Wow, I can't get enough. I'll be here for the next hour just looking for, ooh, gotta write that one down. These are great. Oh man, there's some good stuff there. Wish I had said it, but it's not far off the vibe. All right, what does dog end as in cigarettes? Let's ask it. Let's see. What does dog end mean in Aqualung? And Jethro tells Aqualung the lyric, the bends to pick a dog end refers to a discarded cigarette butt. Dog end is a British slang for the last bit of a cigarette, usually the part somebody's already smoked and tossed away. In the context of the song, it paints a vivid picture of the character Aqualung's desperation and poverty. He's described as an old man wandering alone, scavenging even the smallest scraps like a used cigarette, which underscores the bleakness of his situation. It's a small phrase, but it packs a punch, gritty, raw, and deeply human. I never heard that expression before. Hey, there's John Paul Bacon saying hello. Well, and my mini PC still never came in. I think it's as soon as I end the broadcast, that mini PC is coming in. So the mini PC I ordered, go back over here. The mini PC I ordered is, it has Linux already installed. And I'm not interested in Linux, but I am interested in showing you how you can take a computer and just wipe it without any backup, without any drivers. You generally will need another computer to get those drivers, but okay, it looks like we had a little bit of a internet issue here that went out and came back. So that wasn't you, that was us. Our internet went down briefly and then for some unknown reason, and then it was off for about 60 seconds and it just came back on. What was I talking about? Oh, so the mini PC, when that arrives, my goal is, again, not to use Linux on it, but to go ahead and install Windows, and then to show you how to identify any missing drivers that may appear. And then you've got maybe a discounted computer since you're not necessarily paying extra for the Windows license, although I will have to buy a Windows license to activate it.
I have no idea what just happened. It was like 2 minutes, maybe less.
Yeah.
And then suddenly everything's fine. So
yeah, everything looks great. I don't know what that was all about. Just a bizarre little hiccup. But anyway, we were just getting ready to wrap it up. And I hope that by showing you Copilot, what it is and what it does and why when people say they're not interested in AI, it means they don't have any experience with it. Because it can help you in situations, especially if, say, for example, you're off to the side of the road with a car issue, you're lost, you're wondering, you pass a store, what is that store? What does it sell? Sometimes, there's these stores and, don't do it while you're driving, pull into a parking lot and go, what is that? And it'll tell you everything about it. You can even take pictures of buildings using Google, or even likely using Copilot or ChatGPT, and say, what is this building? What's in here? Or you go downtown, take a picture of the high rise. Does it have a name? You can learn all about it. You can do it based on photos. It can do it based on music. What song is this? It can tell you what the song means, when it was written. You get all, whatever you want to know, you're holding all the answers right here. It's up to you to reach in and grab what you want. It's like Felix the cat had that magic bag that never had a bottom. And whatever he wanted was in that bag, right? Am I remembering it right? Well, this is like a TARDIS in that way. It's not very big, but it's endless on the inside when it comes to data. You'll never reach the end of it. It goes on infinitely. And so it's up to you to determine when you're wondering something, when you want to know something. We have, especially if we're older, we've become accustomed to just go, you know, I don't know. You don't have to say, I don't know anymore. You need to take a minute and go, wait a minute, I can know. Let me just try it. And you'll be surprised. What was the name of that actor in that movie we saw? Boom, there it is. You know, just a few little hints and it'll guess. There is really any possibility you can dream up. If you have an issue, the door doesn't close right in your house. Can you fix it yourself? What are some ways to do that? There's a part that needs to be replaced on your car. Can you do that yourself? What are the steps? There's a recipe I want to make. What ingredients do I need and how do I make that recipe? Here you go. I mean, it's endless. I wouldn't go there for medical advice. However, it may be good to sort of plant the idea of what to expect from a medical professional, just to prepare yourself. But at the same time, there's a lot more in medical diagnosis than just your symptoms. There's other symptoms that need to be measured with tools, from temperature and pulse rate to listening to your lungs, breathing in and breathing out, that a doctor would do that ChatGPT isn't going to do. And therefore, you're limiting the amount of information that it needs to make a more accurate diagnosis. And you don't realize you're doing it because you're not a trained doctor. So I wouldn't use it for anything critically important. Trapped behind enemy lines. How do I escape with my life? I wouldn't use it for that. But for everyday ordinary tasks where sometimes you just might be curious, or other times you're living with an inconvenience. Every time you open a door, it squeaks. You can't figure out how to get to the batteries in this little electronic device. Where are the batteries at? It'll tell you every time. It's amazing. So that's why I say maybe I need to do a show where I just invite everybody to ask questions, and I take basically go off screen to the ChatGPT or Copilot, type the question in word for word, and read the answer back. And let people think that's actually me giving them all those answers. That's not deceptive at all, is it? David Graham said, Copilot said Explorer has a memory leak and that's why YouTube live chat crashes. That's true. Andy says, I'm looking forward to tomorrow's show because I have a bare bones mini PC on the way. Well, tomorrow will be a members only show. Of course, all of you are members. My intention, however, is to showcase that how-to video to everybody, not just to members. So I have two ways I can do that. I can either do it for members first and then make it public, but I said I wasn't going to make any members videos public. So then my alternative is to do something else for the members and then save the mini PC build, or rebuild if you will, for Tuesday. Now I did do this prior and I got hung up on one of the devices because I didn't follow my own advice. And it didn't occur to me that I would need a driver for an HID, Microsoft HID driver. It's a pretty rare one that usually is built into Windows. I've never seen that happen before, but now that I've experienced it, I know better. It'll burn me once, you know, and this is part of the learning process. So I'm very confident that the next one that comes in, it should go exactly as planned. But every once in a while, I will get something that throws me. But that's also what keeps me from being bored, and it keeps me learning. And I'm not embarrassed by it, but I am upset at some of the way the dialogue went in the chat room. So I ended up taking that video down because of the negativity. So I want to redo it again, start over. And that also gives me the opportunity to not get hung up with that particular driver issue, because that was so weird, very unusual. And again, if I had followed my own advice, the second Google answer was the right one, and I just dismissed Google after the first answer was wrong. I shouldn't have done that. And I just assumed that I was going to be able to figure it out a different way faster, which, you know, talk about doing it the hard way. I definitely did that the hard way. But those hard lessons are the ones that stay, at least for me. And I likely won't forget that, and that makes me a better tech. I don't have an issue with making a mistake. I don't have an issue with anybody making a mistake. What I take issue with is making the same mistake over and over again. And at some point, you just give up on people. You're like, all right, you're not learning, so we'll focus our attention on people that learn. What bothers me is I see people all the time talking about, how can I do this without making a mistake? Well, do it, and then see if there's a mistake. I don't know how to answer that. And then if there is a mistake, we'll help you fix it. But there's nothing to fix and there's nothing to avoid if you do nothing. So just do it. Likely everything will be fine. If it isn't, there's a learning opportunity for you. You should not be fearing or avoiding. Not if you want to grow. Just the opposite. You should be sharing that. You won't believe what I did, you know. We can all relate. We've all been there. It's not just you. I see no harm and I see no embarrassment in pulling on a door that clearly says push. We've all done it. Rip City Raider became a supporter here. Right on. He's been a supporter. Thank you for that. Thank you to all the members for making these videos possible. Thank you to our friends over at SCD Keys for continuing to offer the discounts on Windows and Office license keys. I'm wondering if I shouldn't just make a dedicated video showing people how this works. I've gotten a few emails where people are like, they haven't done it, right? So they're wondering, how do I do it? And I'm like, just buy it and follow the instructions. And if you're stuck, let us know. But what they want, what so many people want to see, is just walk me through the whole process. The problem with walking you through the process is it involves a lot of personal information, such as my login account. Every past purchase I've ever made is in my purchase history, which showcases every product key behind each purchase. It's not like they're all visible, but the minute I demonstrate it to show you, I'm exposing a product key that I don't want to expose. Everything's real. So that means I have to do that off camera, and then I have to edit it, and I have to blur out the sections because there's just too many jerks. That's the society we live in. I don't have a choice. I have to blur out product keys or personal information, then render that out as a video, and then I can publish that. That's a lot of work. Instead of somebody just explaining to me what the problem is, assuming they even have a problem, which they likely wouldn't if they'd at least try. So I'm not sure. I'm on the fence about it, but you know, I feel like there's some people that have anxiety about purchasing the key because they don't have all the information. And the only way you're going to get all the information, at least that matters, is to just do it. And then if you get hung up, to just email us. So our email address right there, showcasecreate@gmail.com. We're always happy to help in any way we can, if we can. And of course, SCD Keys. If you're interested, we have all the links below this video for Microsoft Windows and Office products. I use them myself, I use them in my business, and I'm paying the same price. I am using coupon code CARRY. Yes, I used coupon code CARRY. I am paying the same you're paying. I'm getting the same product you're getting, and I'm using that for providing real customers with Windows and Office licenses. I service their computers. That's how real and legit it is. Some of my clients are lawyers. You can imagine if I put illegal software on their computer, probably going to be repercussions. So I have to be very cautious. And if it's good enough for me, then you as a home user, assuming you're a home user, you should have no concerns. Also, if you're running a small business, maybe you do computer repair yourself and you're not sure, where can I get license keys, Carrie? Right there's where you get them. Use the coupon code. You'll pay the same price I'm paying. That's pretty awesome. And they have 6 months of support where they'll help you if you need help as well. And of course, you can always reach out to us with your receipt number if you're having any issues with SCD keys, and we can be the go-between between you and SCD keys if you prefer. All right, with that, thanks of course to Mara for all the work she does in the background with thumbnails and video notes, which I didn't really set up anything for today, so she has since updated everything. And thanks for hanging out with me. And thank you all for being members. Thanks to our friend Buster, as always. Frankie B, Charlie Purdy, Mark Gaines, Luke Greenia. You guys rock. All of you rock. And I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow on the members only broadcast, which I'm not sure what I'm doing tomorrow, but you know, it's more laid back, more informal, where we can just chat about whatever we want to chat about or showcase anything we will be working on in the coming weeks, give you some information, what's going on behind the scenes, and what we've got prepared. That includes, maybe you can help me pick a case for the Mini ITX build. I've got a couple to choose from, and I'm not sure which one I want to use, or if I should just buy something new. Let me know what you think, and hopefully you'll join me and engage in the live chat tomorrow during our members only. It's every Monday at 1 o'clock Phoenix time. They usually run about 2 hours. And then Friday, we'll continue the Mini ITX build with whatever we decide we're going to do for a case. Because then once I have a case figured out, then I can pick the cooler and the power supply. Thank you again. I'll see you all very, very soon. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Until tomorrow, bye for now.